Chapter 70. In a moment of desperation, Wang Daoyuan thought of the physics knowledge he had learned in his previous life. After all, he had received higher education. He had studied sound waves since junior high school, and he was still studying them when he was in university. He was not completely ignorant about sound waves. However, the laws of this world were different from those of his previous life. When he was young, he had tried to use the chemistry knowledge he had learned in his previous life to do something, but without exception, he had failed. For example, he once wanted to generate electricity to create thunder talismans. In the end, this world could not generate electricity at all. In this world of cultivation, the principles of matter seemed to be different from his previous world. Therefore, he wasn't sure if the knowledge he had learned in his previous life to weaken sound waves could be used in this world. However, at this time, there was no other way. He could only try everything he could. According to what he had learned in his previous life, the transmission of sound required a medium. For example, air and water. However, the transmission of sound across the medium would consume a lot of energy. The greater the difference in density between the two mediums, the more sound energy would be consumed. With less energy, the sound would naturally become softer. For example, if someone was riding a horse in the distance, so far that the sound of the horse could no longer be heard. The effect of sound traveling on the ground was better. If one's ear was on the ground, one could clearly hear the sound of horse hooves. However, if one's ear was off the ground, one would not be able to hear it. This was because sound traveled from the ground to the air. It was transmitted across a medium, and its energy was depleted. The sound was too soft for human ears to detect. As for the specific principles behind it, it had been several years since he graduated from university in his previous life. 20 years had passed in this life, so he had long forgotten all about it. However, knowing the principle was not important. What was important was knowing what to do. If he knew something like the earth wall technique, he would be able to condense spiritual energy and turn it into a solid object. Then, he would be able to create an earth ball to wrap himself up. Unfortunately, none of the talismans he refined were of this type. The armor condensed from the earth armor talisman, the gold armor talisman, and the water dragon armor were all in the form of spiritual energy, not solid. The only non-gaseous thing he could condense was a water ball. Wang Daoyuan made up his mind to take a gamble. If he could weaken the sound wave attack, then he would kill this old bastard. If it didn't work, then he would immediately use a mid-grade Tier 2 Divine Strider talisman to escape. Circulating his water spiritual energy, he controlled the water in the underground river to form a water ball. This layer of water ball didn't wrap around his body tightly, and there were some gaps between it and his body. He was still worried about a single layer of water ball, so he condensed an even bigger water ball and wrapped it around the outside. Between the two layers of water balls, there was a half-foot gap, which was filled with water spiritual energy. The sound of the bell had to pass through the air and travel to the outer layer of the water sphere. Then, it would travel from the outer layer of the water sphere to the space between the two layers of water spheres. Then, it would travel to the inner layer of water sphere. Finally, it would travel to the air between the human and the inner layer of water sphere. Only then could he hear it. If this principle worked, then after 4 consecutive transmediums, the sound of the bell wouldn't even sound like a fart. Not only did Wang Daoyuan not retreat, he even took a few steps forward, as if he was about to attack. The black-robed old man controlled the yellow bell to ring again. As a precaution, Wang Daoyuan still took a few big steps back to avoid being severely injured by the sound wave if this principle was ineffective. He would not even have the chance to escape. The two of them were only a few dozen feet apart, and the sound of the bell arrived in an instant. The outer layer of the water sphere was shaken by the sound of the bell. The entire water sphere seemed to be boiling, but the inner layer of the water sphere only had small ripples. When the sound reached Wang Daoyuan's ears, it was like listening to the sound of a bell dozens of miles away. If he did not listen carefully, he would not be able to hear it at all. If this principle worked, Wang Daoyuan was especially happy. As expected, it didn't sound like a fart. "Old man, just wait for me to chop you up." The black-robed old man saw that Wang Daoyuan was not affected by the sound of the bell at all, and was somewhat in disbelief. He activated the yellow bell a few more times, but it still did not have any effect. On the contrary, he was the one who activated the magic tool consecutively in a short period of time. His body was affected by the recoil, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. After a few breaths, Wang Daoyuan was already in front of him. The black-robed old man asked in horror, "How can you not be affected by the sound of the bell?" Wang Daoyuan did not reply, and directly used the water dragon technique. A water dragon appeared and wrapped around the yellow bell. The water dragon flew towards him with the yellow bell. He took the yellow bell and directly sent it into the space of the spiritual pearl. Even if the black-robed old man had a connection with the magic tool, they were separated by space. No matter how capable he would not be able to sense the yellow bell, let alone activate it. After removing the greatest threat, Wang Daoyuan dispersed the 2 layers of water balls. The water dragon technique once again turned into the water dragon armor. Coupled with the golden armor talisman and the earth armor talisman, he was not afraid that this injured old man could do anything to him. He knew very well that villains died from talking too much. Although he was now a righteous person, he still had to be steady and send this old man to the afterlife first. He took out the profound yang sword, and without saying a word, he slashed down. It was unknown if the black-robed old man was injured or something, but his movement technique was terrifyingly weak. He was actually unable to dodge this simple sword strike, and only had time to move his head away. This sword strike landed on his left shoulder. Although the profound yang sword was not very sharp, it still depended on who it was cutting. It was almost enough to cut a python or a crocodile with a thick skin and a thick body of scales, but cutting this old man was like playing with a toy. With one strike, the black-robed old man's entire body was almost split into 2 halves. He did not even struggle before he died. Wang Daoyuan did not choose to search on the spot. He had good things on him, and after killing the enemy, he would plunder them on the spot. It was too easy to be plotted against. The defensive talisman and the water dragon armor were still on him. He lifted the black-robed old man's corpse, wanting to take away his storage belt. Suddenly, a spirit beast bag on the black-robed old man's waist opened by itself, and a young rogue cultivator ran out. Wang Daoyuan grabbed him and asked, "Who are you? Why are you here?" Without saying a word, the rogue cultivator turned around and threw out a hidden weapon. Then, he turned around and fled. This hidden weapon was the needle-shaped magic tool that was hidden in the black smoke when the black-robed old man spat out black smoke. When the needle hit Wang Daoyuan's earth armor talisman, the earth armor talisman only trembled slightly. This power was far inferior to the one the black-robed old man used. Wang Daoyuan was too lazy to talk nonsense with him. He directly chased after him and struck the rogue cultivator on the back of his neck. The rogue cultivator immediately fainted. After all, he was only a guy at the 2nd level of chi refinement. If he wanted to play tricks in his hands, he could dream on. At this moment, the black-robed old man's corpse was still in his hands. Wang Daoyuan directly opened the 3 spirit beast bags on the corpse, and after making sure that there were no people or monstrous beasts hiding inside, he put the 3 monstrous beasts inside, and together with the storage bags, he put them into the spirit pearl space. Then, he put the black-robed old man's corpse into a storage bag and hung it on his belt. The yellow bell was still in the space of the spirit pearl. Without knowing if this old man had a backup plan, he directly threw the corpse into the space of the spirit pearl. It was hard to guarantee that this old man would not leave behind a backup plan. In case another rogue cultivator popped out from somewhere and directly controlled the yellow bell, when Wang Daoyuan's divine sense entered the space, it would attack him. When one's divine sense entered and was attacked by the yellow bell, it might implicate one's soul. It was better to be safe than sorry. Even if victory was in his hands, he had to be steady. It didn't matter if it was a little troublesome, but if he was careless and was plotted against, he would really die with regrets. Chapter 71. From the moment Wang Daoyuan was ambushed to the moment he finished off the black-robed old man, it had only taken him 4 hours. It wasn't even midnight yet, so he decided to explore the black-robed old man's cave residence first and return to Mirror Iron Mountain at dawn. When he was thrown to the stone wall by the python, he quickly scanned the place with his spiritual sense and found that there were many restrictions inside. There should be many good things inside. However, he didn't dare to enter rashly. This old man had too many tricks up his sleeve. If he fell to the old man's tricks, it would be a great loss. Wang Daoyuan couldn't understand how the black-robed old man could make wandering cultivators and demon beasts willingly die for him. However, the black-robed old man was crafty, so Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to keep him alive. It wasn't worth risking his life for curiosity. Fortunately, there was a wandering cultivator with a low cultivation. He had 2 layers of defensive talismans and the water dragon armor, so there was no need to fear a backlash. In order to prevent this person from resisting, he could only tie him up and stick a high-grade grade 1 truth-questioning talisman on him. The truth-questioning talisman could suppress the user's soul and make them lose their ability to think. They would answer whatever others asked. Wang Daoyuan activated the truth-questioning talisman, slapped him in the face, waking him up. Unless the power of this individual cultivator's spiritual sense had reached the level of foundation establishment, otherwise, he would definitely answer any question asked by the questioning inner heart talisman. Wang Daoyuan asked, "What's your name? Where are you from? What's your purpose in coming to Mirror Iron Mountain?" The wandering cultivator answered, "My name is Qi Yun. I come from the north of Huiyan mountain range, where humans and demons live together. Because I explored a secret realm left behind by a predecessor, I obtained an inherited cultivation method and had a conflict with my companions. After being ambushed, I was heavily injured. My soul was also damaged, and my cultivation constantly fell. I could only escape to the south of Huiyan mountain range to avoid being hunted down. 10 years ago, I coincidentally came to Mirror Iron Mountain. Because of my heavy injuries, I have been recuperating here. I only recently stabilized my injuries. My body is damaged and it's difficult to recover. I want to find a suitable wandering cultivator to possess." Wang Daoyuan was a little surprised when he heard the rogue cultivator's words. This person looked to be in his 20s, not much older than him. Why would he call himself old man and say that he wanted to possess Wang Daoyuan's body? That was impossible. Even the soul of a foundation establishment cultivator couldn't possess another person's body. Only after reaching the Violet Palace stage and establishing the Violet Palace would one's soul be strengthened into a divine soul. Only then would it be able to exist for a long period of time outside of the body. Only a god soul had the ability to forcefully enter another's sea of consciousness and carry out possession. Could this old man be a Violet Realm expert? That was impossible. No matter how heavily injured a Violet Palace Realm expert was, his soul had already undergone a qualitative change, and it was absolutely impossible for him to be restrained by a first-grade interrogation talisman. Cheese bodies souls body, cheese a person, he's is a body s's. Qi Yun replied, "Before I was injured, I was at the peak of foundation establishment. I relied on the inheritance I obtained while exploring a secret realm. There was a divine sense cultivation method that recorded the secret method to possess someone below the Violet Palace realm. Mans to S to the point to S's, S truths, or he, S soul." Although the soul of a peak foundation establishment cultivator was extremely powerful, very close to the soul of a Violet Palace cultivator, no matter how powerful it still hadn't undergone a qualitative change. In essence, it was the same as a Qi condensation cultivator's soul. It was possible for it to fall to the level of a Qi condensation cultivator if it was severely damaged. What followed was a burst of ecstasy. A divine sense cultivation method that could cause peak foundation establishment cultivators to fight over. What kind of level was that? At the very least, it was much stronger than the Wang clan's soul tempering art. Wang Daoyuan continued to ask, "Where's your soul tempering art? What other treasures do you have?" Qi Yun replied in a daze, "The soul-tempering arts are in my Immortals cave. Apart from the soul-tempering arts, I also obtained a few magic tools. However, I was chased away by them, leaving behind only a high-grade Tier 2 brass bell and a high-grade Tier 1 shield." Wang Daoyuan's interest was piqued. He only felt that the brass bell was very powerful and might be a Tier 2 magic tool. He didn't expect it to be a high-grade Tier 2 magic tool. Even though it was especially strenuous for him to utilize a level 2 magic weapon with his cultivation and divine sense, and it might even injure his soul instead, it was still not bad to use as a trump card. Furthermore, this yellow bell was a sound wave attack. It was possible that it could catch an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator off guard and severely injure them. Wang Daoyuan continued to ask, "There are restrictions in your cave residence. How do I get in?" Qi Yun replied, "I have a bead in my storage pouch. It's the hub that controls the formation in the cave. As long as you refine it, you'll be able to control the formation in the entire cave." Wang Daoyuan was in a hurry to go to Qi Yun's cave to look for a cultivation technique, so he was too lazy to ask any more questions. He threw away the questioning heart talisman and stuck a soul-subduing talisman on Qi Yun's body. This talisman would keep him unconscious for 10 days to half a month before he placed Qi Yun into his spirit beast pouch. He took out the storage pouch that he had just seized from the spirit beast pouch. Sure enough, there was a fist-sized blue bead inside. There were also a few jade slips, but he didn't have the time to look at them. Wang Daoyuan dripped a drop of blood essence onto the bead. He then used his divine sense to explore the interior of the bead and forcefully erased the divine sense imprint that Qi Yun had left on the bead. He then used his divine sense to leave his own divine sense imprint on the bead. The process was complete. If the magic weapon wasn't in the hands of its owner, the divine sense imprint was like water without a source. The more it was consumed, the less it would be. After successfully making the magic weapon recognize him as its owner, Wang Daoyuan quickly rushed to Qi Yun's cave residence. He used his divine sense to explore the interior of the cave residence. He found that the interior space was very large. It seemed to be built using a natural karst cave. He used his magic power and divine sense to activate the blue bead at the same time. The bead emitted a blue light. Wang Daoyuan thought to himself. The formations and restrictions in the cave residence were all closed. In an instant, the restrictions became dim. Wang Daoyuan calmly walked in. He saw that the interior of the cave residence was very large. It occupied an area of more than 50 mu. There were a few luminous pearls hanging above the cave residence. Although these were worthless things for cultivators, they were really good for lighting. In the deepest part of the cave residence, there was a spirit spring. Based on the concentration of spiritual energy it emitted, he could determine that it was a low-grade second-rank spirit spring. The spirit spring was an undeveloped water spirit vein. But apart from its small size, the concentration of spiritual energy around the spirit spring was about the same as water spirit veins of the same rank. Of course, the amount of spiritual energy produced by the spirit spring was much less. The amount of spiritual energy produced by this spirit spring was enough for an early foundation establishment cultivator and 20 to 30 qi refining cultivators to cultivate. This cave residence could be used as the foundation of a foundation establishment clan. However, in Wang Daoyuan's eyes, it wasn't particularly precious. After all, the Jade Spring Peak was the clan's foundation chosen by the old ancestor. It had a mid-grade 4th rank spirit vein. Moreover, the Jade Spring Peak spirit vein was a mid-grade spirit vein. Just the spirit eye of the spirit vein, the Jade Dragon Spring, was half a mu in size. The Wang clan's protective formation, the Myriad Water Origin Formation, used the spirit vein as its source of energy. When the Wang clan was involved in the battle of the 3 great sects to destroy the Zhao clan, several golden core cultivators of the 3 great sects attacked for several days without being able to break the formation. Later, under Yang Yang's mediation, the Netherworld sect made concessions and promised not to destroy the Wang clan. The Wang clan submitted to the Netherworld sect. However, the Netherworld sect didn't want their subordinate forces to have such a powerful formation. Thus, they destroyed the Myriad Water Origin Formation. Although the Wang clan still kept the diagram of the Myriad Water Origin Formation and the method to set it up, without a 4th rank formation master, there was no way to set it up. Moreover, the Netherworld sect wouldn't allow the Wang clan to set up the Myriad Water Origin Formation again. In addition, the Netherworld sect also extracted the Spirit Vein source from the Jade Spring Peak, causing the Spirit Vein to fall to the 3rd rank high grade, making it unable to support Violet Palace Realm cultivators to break through to the Golden Core stage. It also wasn't enough to support the Myriad Water Origin Formation. Even so, the Jade Spring Peak Spirit Vein was still second to none in Clear Glass County. The main spirit veins of the Yang clan and the Liang clan were only 3rd rank low grade, and the main spirit vein of the Old Square in Clear Glass City was only 3rd rank middle grade. Moreover, in the future, by extracting the source of other spirit veins and fusing it with the Jade Dragon Spring, there was a possibility that it could recover to a 4th rank spirit vein. The spirit chi of the Jade Dragon Spring was enough for more than 10 late-stage Violet Palace Realm cultivators to cultivate. In the past, it was enough to satisfy the cultivation of several middle-stage Golden Core cultivators. Although this spirit spring couldn't be compared to the spirit vein of the Jade Spring Peak, it wasn't completely useless. The spirit spring was an immature spirit vein and had a very high potential for growth. This place wasn't far from the Heaven/Mountain range, and the spirit chi was abundant. In the future, it would have a chance to grow into a spirit vein. The spirit spring water meandered in the cave, nourishing 5 to 6 mu of spirit fields. The fields were all spirit grains. There were many types of spirit grains. The commonly seen spirit grains in the market were similar to millet. The spirit grains in Wang Daoyuan's spirit pearl were also of this type. In addition, there were also grains similar to wheat and rice, respectively called spirit wheat and spirit rice. These 3 types of spirit grains all had different grades. In some large powers, there were also some 2nd-rank spirit grains. In the past, the imperial family of the state of Zhao even had 3rd-rank spirit grains. In this cave, all 3 types of spirit grains were planted. The low-lying areas were planted with spirit rice, while the higher areas were planted with spirit wheat and spirit grains. Spirit wheat and spirit rice were rarely seen in the market, and there were also very few people who planted them. Although the production of these 2 types of spirit grains was slightly higher, the requirements for the spirit fields were high. Moreover, the management of the fields was more troublesome. Especially spirit rice. Among the 3 types of spirit grains, its production was the highest, but its management was also the most troublesome. The requirements for the growing environment were also the highest. Not only did it require spirit fields, it also needed spirit spring water to water it. In addition, it also needed to frequently draw and drain water. The spring water finally converged at a low-lying area, forming a pool of about 3 mu. The pool water was cold and clear. There were some 1st-rank seaweeds in the pool. They looked similar to mortal goldfish algae and shone with a metallic light. Wang Daoyuan scooped up a strand of seaweed and carefully observed it, but he didn't find anything special. It should be an ordinary goldfish algae that had become a 1st-rank spirit grass under the nourishment of spirit energy. He might as well call it goldfish spirit grass. This seaweed didn't have any medicinal value, but it was full of spirit energy and was good as food for spirit fish. The Wang family's Jade Dragon Spring also had ranked seaweed, and it was a 2nd-rank upper-grade seaweed called Jade Dragon Seaweed. It was a special product of the Jade Dragon Spring and couldn't grow in other places. Jade Dragon Seaweed could grow into a 3rd-rank lower-grade spirit plant if it grew for a long time. It could help aquatic demon beasts advance. Legend had it that the dragon fish of the Wang family's ancestor was originally an ordinary 2nd-rank spirit fish. Later, after eating the 3rd-rank Jade Dragon Seaweed, it broke the bloodline shackles and rose to 3rd rank. Moreover, the dragon bloodline in its body, which was already extremely thin, was awakened. Its talent soared and quickly rose to 4th rank. If it hadn't died in the war more than 300 years ago, it was not impossible for a dignified dragon species to become a fifth-rank spirit beast. Because the jade dragon seaweed had such a valuable effect, the family's management of the jade dragon seaweed was extremely strict. Except for the patriarch and the grand elder, no one was allowed to touch it. Moreover, the jade dragon seaweed grew at the bottom of the jade dragon spring. Cultivators below the foundation establishment stage couldn't go down at all. Wang Daoyuan had always wanted to steal a few, but unfortunately, he didn't have the ability. If the jade dragon seaweed left the jade dragon spring, the possibility of survival was not high. Even if it was lucky enough to survive, it wouldn't grow well. Moreover, the spiritual field in the spiritual pearl space at this time barely reached second rank lower grade, and the spirit energy concentration was only first rank upper grade. Although the spiritual pearl space was magical and couldn't be taken lightly, the hope of growing a rare spirit plant like the jade dragon seaweed was still not high. There were many pseudo-spirit fish in the pool, but they were all common species and not ranked. Wang Daoyuan scooped out about half of the goldfish spirit grass and pseudo-spirit fish in the pool and put them into the fish pond in the spiritual pearl space. With these goldfish spirit grass, the Qing River carps and pseudo-spirit fish didn't need to be fed by humans. On both sides of the spring, there were about 100 or 200 first-rank upper-grade orchids. It was a species that Wang Daoyuan had never seen or heard of. It should be a special species bred by this spiritual spring. The leaves of this orchid were more than a foot long, like a long sword. There were quite a lot of similar orchids, so it wasn't rare. However, this flower was quite strange. The flower's shape was like a butterfly, the color was like white jade, and it also shone with a faint blue light. When he walked closer, he could smell a delicate fragrance, which made him 100 times more energetic. This flower fragrance should have the effect of waking up and even improving the cultivation of spiritual awareness. He moved more than 20 orchids into the spiritual pearl space and planted them on the edge of the fish pond. This thing may have the effect of improving spiritual awareness, so naturally, he had to plant a lot. In addition, since he found such an Immortals cave, he naturally had to go back to report his results to the patriarch and bring some evidence back. There was a simple thatched hut next to the spiritual spring, which should be where Qiyun lived. The ground in the Immortals cave was uneven, and there were many large and small rocks. The only flat ground was the 5 or 6 mu of spiritual fields and the thatched hut. If he cleaned it up, he could use the spiritual spring water to open up more than 10 mu of spiritual fields. If he raised some spiritual fish and aquatic spiritual plants in the pond, this Immortals cave could support an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator and 30 to 40 Qi refinement cultivators. No matter how one looked at it, it was enough to support a foundation establishment clan. Moreover, this place was extremely hidden, and could be used as a secret base for the Wang clan. In the future, if the Wang clan was in trouble, it could also be used as a refuge, and the clan's good seedlings could be brought here to take refuge. It wouldn't affect their cultivation, and they could regroup after the storm passed. Wang Daoyuan didn't expect that he would have completed more than half of the unlimited mission just as he started. The reason why he said it was more than half was because although this place could shelter most of the clan's cultivators and ensure that the inheritance would not be lost, it still belonged to the Netherworld sect. However, this place was still within the territory of the Netherworld sect. If the clan needed to take refuge here in the future, dozens of people would inevitably leave traces behind. If they were discovered, the Netherworld sect would clear this place, and they would die. It was still possible to hide a few clansmen, but it was not reliable to send all of them. Wang Daoyuan still needed to continue to the periphery of the heavenly/mountain range to find a safe place for the clan to live. Chapter 72. Wang Daoyuan walked into the hut. The furnishings inside were very simple. There was only a bed and a table. There was an animal skin book on the table. It was the same as the 10,000 Spirit Atlas that he had seized from Zhang Deshang. Each animal skin was equivalent to a jade slip. He could use his divine sense to imprint information on it. It was much more advanced than a jade slip. He put the animal skin book into the spiritual pearl space and used a trace of his divine sense to explore it. In this way, even if there was a trick in the animal skin book, it would at most destroy a trace of his divine sense. It would not directly hurt his soul. When he used his divine sense to explore the animal skin book, he saw the words, Doppelganger Soul Nurturing Technique, written on the first page. Wang Daoyuan used his divine sense to explore the second page. This page was the origin of the technique and the modification process. From the records, it could be seen that this divine sense cultivation technique was not something from Beiyuan Shoshin. It came from another immortal cultivation world. Moreover, it was not the original version. It was modified after a later generation. Even the name of the original creator was not left behind. According to the records, the original creator's soul was damaged. He had no hope of opening the purple mansion in this life. He wanted to repair his soul, but it was difficult to find such a miraculous elixir. He collected many ancient books and techniques related to the soul. In the end, he created a secret technique that could repair the soul, the devouring soul nurturing technique. This secret technique erased other people's spiritual wisdom and will, causing their soul to be in an extremely weak state. The caster divided his own soul and injected the divided part into the victim's sea of consciousness. Because the victim's soul did not have spiritual wisdom and consciousness, it was unable to resist the invasion of the foreign soul. Moreover, the control of the body would be taken away. At this time, the victim became an existence similar to the caster's doppelganger. The caster used the victim's body and soul to nourish the divided soul. When the divided soul was strong to a certain extent, it would devour the original soul of the doppelganger. The caster then took back the divided soul and merged it into himself. In this way, not only could the soul be healed, but it could also greatly improve the cultivation of the divine sense. After many times, the creator finally repaired the damage to his soul and successfully opened the purple mansion. However, after the creator's soul recovered, he was unwilling to give up this secret technique. He used this method to strengthen the cultivation of the divine sense. Finally, he cultivated to the Yuanying state. Later on, the matter was exposed and the founder was attacked by the righteous cultivators. In the end, he died. However, the spirit-devouring soul cultivation technique was not lost because of this. Instead, it was obtained by an expert who besieged the founder. This expert had a good character and did not use it to harm others. Instead, he used it as a foundation and improved it, renaming it the soul-nurturing doppelganger technique. Although the improved secret technique also split the soul and used the clone to nurture the soul, the clone did not have to be a human. Any spiritual creature with a soul would do. The split soul would only rely on the clone to grow stronger. It would not devour the soul of the clone. The soul of the clone could still be reincarnated. Therefore, this secret technique was no longer in the category of evil cultivation methods. It could be considered a divine sense cultivation method that could repair the damage to the soul. Furthermore, the doppelganger soul nurturing technique had improved the method of erasing the doppelganger's intelligence and consciousness, making the doppelganger's soul more stable. Even without a split soul, the doppelganger's intelligence would only be that of an infant, and it would still be able to survive. The same doppelganger could be used repeatedly. If the original split soul was strong enough, a new split soul could be used to replace the strong split soul. This secret technique could split the soul and fuse it again. It could be used together with the puppet technique, beast taming technique, and corpse refining technique. That expert's descendant also used this secret technique as a foundation to establish the imperial regency. The imperial regency dominated the cultivation world with the puppet technique, beast taming technique, and corpse refining technique, suppressing all the other forces. However, the hunter would shoot the bird that sticks out. The imperial regency was besieged by all the major forces. In the end, it was exterminated, and its disciples fled in all directions. One of the foundation establishment disciples fled to the remote Beiyuan Shoshin. However, this disciple's status was not high. He was only qualified to cultivate the doppelganger soul nurturing technique after he reached the foundation establishment realm. Furthermore, before he could achieve anything with his cultivation, he was caught up in the destruction of his sect. He was not qualified to obtain the secret technique manual. He could only try to restore the doppelganger soul nurturing technique based on what he had learned and the rumors about the technique. Unfortunately, his cultivation was too low, and he had learned too little. It was difficult for him to restore his original appearance. Although the doppelganger soul nurturing technique that he restored could still increase the cultivation of his divine sense, it no longer had the effect of repairing damaged souls. Although his cultivation had increased and he had deduced the contents of the Purple Palace realm, his knowledge was still too lacking compared to the senior who had modified the doppelganger soul nurturing technique. The difference between the repaired version and the complete version was like heaven and earth. Although the clone refined from the repaired version could continue to cultivate and increase the cultivation of the divine sense, the split soul could not perfectly fuse with the original soul of the clone. The clone's cultivation would increase very slowly, and its ability to cultivate techniques and learn the various arts of cultivation would be greatly reduced. It would be easier to encounter bottlenecks, and it would be extremely difficult to break through the bottleneck. Due to the incomplete soul, the clone could not establish a Purple Palace. If one wanted to obtain a Purple Palace realm clone, they would have to deal with a Purple Palace realm cultivator. However, the soul of a Purple Palace realm cultivator had already undergone a qualitative change, becoming a divine soul. Using the original divine sense attack secret technique to deal with a Purple Palace realm cultivator would not have a high success rate. Either they were unable to completely annihilate the clone's consciousness, or they used too much strength and directly killed the clone. If they were unable to completely annihilate the clone's consciousness, then when the split soul fused with the clone, it would be easy to cause the soul of the clone to resist, causing the split soul to be directly annihilated and cause permanent damage to the soul. Although spirit medicines that repaired the damage of the soul were rare, they weren't difficult to find for some great powers. On the other hand, spirit medicines that repaired the soul of a Purple Palace realm cultivator were especially rare, and all of them were rare treasures that could only be chanced upon by luck. The risk of using a Purple Palace realm cultivator to refine a clone was truly too great. Thus, this disciple started to take an unconventional path. He no longer pursued strengthening the cultivation of his divine sense, and instead used his clone as his main method of combat. He mainly cultivated corpse refinement techniques and used his split soul to control the corpse refinement. The human and the corpse refinement were of one mind, and their cooperation was seamless. Coupled with the assistance of formations, their combat strength rose sharply, and they could be said to be invincible amongst their peers. Later on, he broke through to the Golden Core realm, controlled over 100 refined corpses, and created the Myriad Corpse Grand Formation, causing him to become illustrious amongst Golden Core realm cultivators and obtain the title of Myriad Corpse Daoist. When Myriad Corpse Daoist's cultivation reached the late Golden Core realm, there was no one below Yuanying who was a match for him. Later on, because he offended too many powers, he was besieged and seriously injured by dozens of Golden Core realm cultivators. After escaping, he hid in a secret realm and finally passed away. When Qi Yun and the others explored the secret realm, they accidentally found the place where Myriad Corpse Daoist passed away. The majority of the refined corpses, magic tools, and secret manuals left behind by Myriad Corpse Daoist were obtained by their companions. He only obtained a small portion of the magic tools, as well as Myriad Corpse Daoist's main cultivation technique and some secret techniques, which led to the subsequent events. The third page of the Beast Book recorded the main text of the doppelganger soul nurturing technique, which included the method of using one's divine sense to destroy the consciousness and consciousness of the clone, the secret technique to fuse the main soul with the split soul, and the method to nurture the split soul and the main soul. There were a few more pages at the back of the Beast Book that recorded the secret techniques derived from the doppelganger soul nurturing technique. For example, Qi Yun's foundation establishment secret technique was to first transfer a split soul into the main body of the clone. After the split soul and the clone adapted to each other, the main soul would be transferred into the clone and replace the original soul of the clone. However, the process of Qi Yun's main soul being transferred into the clone was completed by force. Since his main body was killed, he could only entrust his main soul into the clone before the clone and the split soul could fully adapt. The rogue cultivator and the 4 monster beasts from before were all Qi Yun's clones, so they were able to sacrifice their lives to block the blade for their main body. In addition to the secret techniques derived from the doppelganger soul nurturing technique, there were also some corpse cultivation techniques and secret techniques collected by myriad corpse Daoist, including the myriad corpse grand array. Wang Daoyuan wasn't interested in refining corpses. In his previous life, he had been influenced by the old Daoist priest and was greatly influenced by traditional culture. Traditional culture emphasized that the dead were the most important. No matter how great a crime was, death was atonement. Even if one wanted to take revenge and even exterminate the enemy's entire clan, they would only do so against the living. There was still a minimum of respect for corpses. Therefore, he couldn't accept things like refining corpses. Chapter 73. Although this was a golden core inheritance, Wang Daoyuan didn't care about it. His family also had a golden core inheritance. The Wang family's ancestor was also a leader among golden cores. The golden core elders of the cruel Sun Palace who died in battle could testify to this. He needed a cultivation method that was suitable for him, not a brainless choice. The doppelganger soul nourishing technique was extremely suitable for him. Although the version repaired by the 10,000 corpse spiritual master was far inferior to the original, it was still an extremely powerful divine sense cultivation method. In terms of soul nourishing technique alone, the Wang family's soul tempering secret art was far superior. As long as it wasn't used on innocent people, it could be regarded as a means of torturing the enemy. After all, the clone was also a living person. In addition to the fact that his heart couldn't accept corpse refining, there was also the problem of resources. He had the space of the spirit bead, which could provide a large number of spirit herbs. It was better to walk the path of beast taming than the path of corpse refining. Spirit beasts needed spirit herbs to become stronger, and he could provide them in large quantities. If he walked the path of corpse refining, the space of the spirit bead couldn't produce materials to strengthen corpse refining. Wang Daoyuan wouldn't choose corpse refining, nor would he major in beast taming. Whether it was corpse refining or beast taming, they all relied on external objects. His own strength was the most important. In the future, he would also choose spirit beasts with special value or use them as food. Of course, beast taming was extremely powerful in fighting enemies. Moreover, he had the beast taming secret method previously snatched from Zhang Desheng, so using beast taming as an auxiliary method was not a big deal. The doppelganger soul nourishing technique was definitely a huge treasure for Wang Daoyuan. Its value was not in improving the power of divine sense, but in the clone itself. Wang Daoyuan, as the owner of the space of the spirit bead, although his divine sense could do some simple work in the space. For example, planting spirit herbs and collecting spirit herbs could be done by consuming some divine sense power. However, some more complicated work couldn't be done. For example, using yellow cloud grass to make talisman paper. If he used his divine sense power in the space, he was afraid that it wouldn't take long for his divine sense power to be exhausted. But with a clone, it was different. He could use his divided soul to control the clone to make talisman paper. Coupled with the space's 20x time flow, he would never run out of talisman paper in the future. If he could let his clone learn how to refine talismans, it would be even easier. He wouldn't even have to do it himself. Moreover, the spirit grains planted in the space of the spiritual pearl would produce a large amount of straw every time. These straw were also rich in spiritual energy and could be used to feed the herbivorous spirit beasts. However, Wang Daoyuan didn't have the time to take care of it. If no one took care of it, the herbivorous spirit beasts would destroy the entire space of the spiritual bead. They could only throw large amounts of straw directly into the spiritual fields and watch the straw slowly rot. It was simply a waste of natural resources. In addition, Wang Daoyuan's consciousness had to enter the space of the spiritual pearl many times every day to feed the Qing River carp and harvest the spirit grains. Although it didn't last long each time, it was troublesome if it happened too many times. If he had a clone, these problems could be easily solved. He could leave everything to his clone. In addition to searching for phase and enriching the variety of phase in the spirit bead space, he only needed to lie down and take the resources produced by the space. In the future, when he had more avatars, he would be able to produce talismans, pills, and other materials on a large scale with the help of the 20-fold time flow. At that time, he wouldn't feel distressed if he casually threw resources at people. Wang Daoyuan walked out of the thatched cottage and transplanted a few stalks of spirit wheat from the spiritual fields into the space of the spiritual pearl. In the future, when the spirit wheat was harvested, he could grind it to make some noodles. There was no noodles in this world. Cultivators mainly ate spirit grains, and those who ate spirit wheat directly ate wheat rice. They didn't know how to grind the noodles at all. Even mortals who didn't know how to cultivate usually ate millet or rice for their meals. In the future, when there was enough spirit wheat, he must eat dumplings. He hadn't eaten dumplings for 20 years. Moreover, developing noodles could also bring more business to the drunken immortal restaurant. As for the spirit rice, there was no spirit spring in the space, so the harvest wouldn't be too good. The Jade Spring Peak was very suitable for growing spirit rice, but the clansmen who managed the spiritual fields also had to cultivate. Growing spirit rice was too time-consuming. In the future, he could recruit some mortals to help him grow it. Next, he wasn't in a hurry to cultivate the cloned soul nurturing technique. To cultivate this secret technique, he had to split his soul. Although it was quiet here, he was still unfamiliar with the place. Who knew if there were any dangers in the underground river or the Immortals' cave? It was more reliable to return to the Jade Spring Peak to cultivate. Moreover, he had just suffered an attack from the brass bell. His head was still aching, so his soul might have been injured. If he cultivated the cloned soul nurturing technique and split his soul, it would be adding injury to injury. It would be troublesome if permanent damage was left. The most important thing now was to refine the brass bell. With this brass bell, he wouldn't be afraid of anyone below the Foundation establishment realm. Moreover, the sound wave attack was an area of effect attack. Unless the opponent was a Foundation establishment cultivator who was already prepared and directly fled on their flying swords, the sound of the bell would definitely kill a large number of people. As long as the opponent didn't fly on their magic tools, even if they used an escape technique, they wouldn't be able to escape the sound wave attack. Of course, he couldn't casually take out the brass bell. According to the information he got from Qi Yun, his companion had been chasing after him and might have also come to the south of Mount Huiyan. The news of Wang Daoyuan using the brass bell reached that person's ears. He would definitely suspect that the inheritance of the 10,000 corpse spiritual master had fallen into his hands. Since he was able to explore the secret realm with Qi Yun, who was at the peak of the Foundation establishment realm, his cultivation was about the same. It wasn't a good thing to be remembered by a peak Foundation establishment cultivator. Moreover, that person also had a pile of refined corpses and magic tools left behind by the 10,000 corpse spiritual master. This brass bell could only be used as a final trump card. Unless it was a last resort, he absolutely couldn't use it. Once he used it, he had to make sure that no living person saw it. Although he couldn't use it, he still had to refine it. Not using a trump card and not having one were two completely different things. Wang Daoyuan took out the brass bell and carefully observed it. He saw that the brass bell was engraved with complicated patterns and the words Soul Extinguisher. It seemed that this bell's name should be the Soul Extinguisher Bell. He dripped a drop of blood essence on the Soul Extinguisher Bell and then used his spiritual sense to explore the bell, looking for the spiritual sense brand left behind by Qi Yun. He completely obliterated it and then left his own spiritual sense brand. This Soul Extinguisher Bell was worthy of being a high-grade second-rank magic tool. It was very difficult to obliterate the spiritual sense brand. It took more than half an hour to completely obliterate the spiritual sense brand left by Qi Yun. Leaving his own spiritual sense brand was not a simple matter. It took nearly 2 hours to complete the master recognition. After the soul extinguisher bell recognized its master, Wang Daoyuan also had some understanding of the soul extinguisher bell. This was a magic tool with both offensive and defensive capabilities. The main attack was a sound wave attack. When the sound wave attack was launched, the soul extinguisher bell would automatically arrange a layer of defensive light shield around the owner's body to avoid being hurt by the sound wave attack. The person who made this magic tool was very thoughtful to avoid the sound wave attack from hurting the owner. Moreover, the person who made this magic tool also knew how to break the sound wave attack. When the soul extinguisher bell was activated for defense, all the power of the soul extinguisher bell would be used to form a defensive light shield. It was much stronger than the defensive light shield used for sound wave attacks. It could block the full blow of a cultivator in the early stage of the foundation establishment stage without any pressure. Although the soul extinguisher bell was a high-grade second-rank magic tool, the threshold to use it was not high. It could be easily activated by the spiritual sense and spiritual power of a cultivator in the late stage of the qi refining stage. Although the power was only 10 or 20%, it was still very impressive. Wang Daoyuan tried to activate the soul extinguisher bell to send out a sound wave attack. He only activated it once and it consumed about 30% of his spiritual sense power. Wang Daoyuan was very glad. When he cracked the sound wave attack, Qiyun panicked and activated the soul extinguisher bell a few more times. It should have consumed a lot of spiritual sense power. Otherwise, the questioning heart talisman would not be able to control Qiyun at all. Unlike the general second-rank magic tool, the soul extinguisher bell could be stored in the sea of consciousness. When used, the concealment was stronger. Moreover, with the soul extinguisher bell in the sea of consciousness, it could also defend against spiritual sense attacks. Chapter 74. Wang Daoyuan meditated among the orchids to restore his divine sense, and his recovery speed was indeed much faster than usual. After fully recovering, he felt that his divine sense had been strengthened a little. Although it was very insignificant, if he cultivated his divine sense in the orchids for a long time, the benefits would be considerable. The fragrance of the orchids had an obvious effect of restoring and strengthening divine sense. This was just the fragrance of the flowers. If he used orchids as raw materials to refine pills, the effect should be better. Calculating the time, it was almost dawn outside. If the people outside found that he was missing, another group of people would be scared away. According to the records of the doppelganger soul-nourishing technique, the doppelganger and the main body were not far apart, so they could communicate with each other. Wang Daoyuan was not sure if Qi Yun's doppelganger knew that the main body had been taken. If they knew, they would definitely want to escape. Although these doppelganger were mortals and could not cultivate to become stronger, they knew the secret of the underground cave and might know that Wang Daoyuan had obtained the doppelganger soul-nourishing technique. If they revealed it, Wang Daoyuan would be in danger. In order to catch all of Qi Yun's doppelganger in one fell swoop, he had to go back before people found out that he was missing. Out of the underground cave, Wang Daoyuan immediately used the teleport talisman to quickly rush to the bottom of the Mirror Iron Mountain, and then used the Earth Escape talisman to return to the mine tunnel lounge. At this time, the miners were still asleep, so Wang Daoyuan went straight to the single room of the junior manager. The junior manager was a little surprised to see him come back in one piece. Now Wang Daoyuan was relieved, which meant that the doppelganger did not know that the main body had been taken. Wang Daoyuan teased, "Qian Daoyu, how have you been?" Hearing this, the junior manager got up and was about to escape. Unfortunately, this doppelganger was just an ordinary person. How could it escape from Wang Daoyuan? Wang Daoyuan directly put it down and did not dare to use the truth-questioning talisman. After all, this doppelganger was an ordinary person. If the truth-questioning talisman was used, the doppelganger's soul might directly collapse. Wang Daoyuan took out the knockout powder that smelled faintly of alcohol from the single room. He released Dahe and let Dahe smell it. Dahe, find everyone who has this on them. Soon, Dahe searched around and found another 5 people who were drugged. They were the chief steward of the mining company and 4 junior stewards. Wang Daoyuan brought the 6 of them to his 8th uncle Wang Shoujiang's Immortals cave. Wang Daoxing was also temporarily squeezed in here. When Wang Shoujiang saw that Wang Daoyuan had brought 6 people here, he asked, "Daoyuan, why did you bring the stewards here?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "8th uncle, didn't I help you investigate the missing miners? The culprits are all here." The 5 of them who were still conscious wanted to quibble. Wang Daoyuan asked, "5 Qiyun Daoyu, can you still sense where the primary soul is?" Then, he took Qiyun, who was still unconscious, out of the spiritual beast bag. The 5 clones immediately sensed the location of the primary soul and were shocked. Wang Daoyuan used the questioning talisman on Qiyun's primary soul again and asked, "Qiyun Daoyu, how many clones did you hide in the Mirror Iron Mountain? Are they all here?" Qiyun was restrained as soon as he woke up. He replied in a daze, "There are 6 of them. It's these 6. As soon as he answered, Wang Daoyuan stuck the soul-subduing talisman on Qiyun again and put him in the spiritual beast bag. Then, he said to Wang Daoxing, "Second brother, knock these 5 sober ones out. Be gentle. Don't kill them." Wang Daoxing was very satisfied with this job. "I like this job." He was very efficient. In less than a second, all 5 of them had fainted. Wang Daoyuan picked up one of them and used his divine sense to invade his sea of consciousness. Because this person was unconscious and was immortal, his soul did not resist. He used the method recorded in the clone soul nurturing technique to extract the clones of Qiyun's soul. Soon, the clones of the 6 people were extracted. Wang Daoyuan was holding 6 pearls that seemed real and illusory at the same time. There was a ferocious human face on them. Wang Daoyuan handed the 6 pearls to Wang Shoujiang and said, "8th uncle, burn these things with fire." Wang Shoujiang mainly cultivated the fire attribute. Fire was a yang element and was extremely destructive to the soul. Wang Shoujiang did not hesitate to take the 6 clones. He condensed a fireball in his palm and wrapped the clones inside. After a series of wails, the 6 clones disappeared without a trace. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands to Wang Shoujiang and said, "The matter of the missing miners is over. 8th uncle and 2nd brother, please don't tell anyone about what you saw today. This matter is very important. I need to return to the family and report it to the patriarch. Explain to the miners that these people were controlled by evil cultivators to capture miners and feed them to demon beasts. The demon beasts were killed and the evil cultivators escaped." He took out the corpses of 4 demon beasts from the spirit beast pouch and said, "Take these 4 evil beasts as evidence. Also, there might be something wrong with the new rogue cultivators. I need to use the questioning talisman to interrogate them." Wang Shoujiang was a little surprised. He put away the demon beasts' corpses and said, "You solved such a troublesome matter so easily?" Wang Daoxing interrupted, "8th uncle, don't tell me how Beiyuan solved it. Now, I don't understand what he's saying to 12th uncle. Just do as he says. We're here to beat people up. We'll beat whoever he tells us to. You're a blockhead. Don't count me in." Wang Shoujiang said, "Everyone has their own secrets. 8th uncle won't ask too much. I'll bring those rogue cultivators here. You can interrogate them however you want. Also, how should we deal with these 6 people? They're close relatives of our Wang family's cultivators. We can't just ignore them." Wang Daoyuan replied, "These 6 people's souls were injured by evil cultivators. Their lives are not in danger, but their intelligence is about the same as a newborn child. I can't guarantee how much they can recover in the future." Wang Shoujiang sighed and said, "Then let's send them all home and give them some compensation. I'll go call those rogue cultivators over." Wang Shoujiang's main cultivation method was fire attribute, so he was also very energetic. After a while, he came back with 5 rogue cultivators, including Lin Yuan. When Lin Yuan saw Wang Daoyuan, he asked, "Daoyu Huang is also here?" Wang Daoyuan didn't bother with him and said to the 5 rogue cultivators, "The culprit behind the miner's disappearance was injured by me and escaped, but it's inevitable that there will be accomplices. You're all cultivators. If there are accomplices among you, you'll be a great threat to Mirror Iron Mountain. For the safety of Mirror Iron Mountain and for your innocence, I'll use the truth talisman on you. Please don't worry. I'll only ask about your origins and your purpose in coming to Mirror Iron Mountain. If there are no problems, the Wang family will give you 10 spirit stones as compensation." Hearing this, 3 of the 5 rogue cultivators smiled happily. 2 of them had unnatural expressions. Lin Yuan was one of them. For cultivators, the truth talisman would only cause them to feel tired for a short period of time. It wouldn't cause any harm. The 10 spirit stones would be enough to buy 50 kilograms of spirit grains. The rogue cultivators who came to make a living were naturally very happy. As for the 2 with unnatural expressions, they probably had other plans. Chapter 75. Wang Daoyuan asked his second brother, Wang Daoxing, to bring the 2 people with unnatural expressions out. The remaining 3 had no abnormalities, so the possibility of them being suspicious was not high. Asking them all at once was not a problem. He asked all 3 of them, and they were all ordinary loose cultivators. After asking, the 3 of them took the spirit stones and left happily. Even the after effects of using the truth questioning talisman seemed to have disappeared. Next, Wang Daoyuan asked Lin Yuan to come in and stuck the truth questioning talisman on him. He asked, "What's your name, and where are you from?" Lin Yuan replied, "My name is Liang Zixing, and I'm from Qingyun Peak." Wang Daoyuan and Wang Shoujiang were a little surprised. They really caught someone with bad intentions. Qingyun Peak was where the Liang clan was located, and the younger generation of the Liang clan was named Zixing. Wang Daoyuan did not ask any more questions. Taking advantage of Liang Zixing being restrained, he hit the back of his neck and knocked him out. He stuck the soul-subduing talisman on him, took the storage bag from his waist, and put it into a spirit beast bag. Wang Shoujiang praised, "Daoyuan, you're still the most attentive. It seems like the Liang clan has not given up and still wants to take over our Wang clan's property." Wang Daoyuan laughed, "This kid came in with me, and when he saw me, he said he wanted to marry into the Wang clan. Even if a normal loose cultivator really wanted to marry into the Wang clan, why would he spread it around? The Liang clan should have the intention to expand, so they sent people to scout first." After saying that, he asked Wang Daoxing to bring the remaining person in. This person saw Liang Zixing come in but did not go out. He was a little scared and wanted to resist. But in Wang Daoxing's hands, he could not do anything. Wang Daoxing restrained him, and Wang Daoyuan stuck the truth-questioning talisman on him. He asked, "What's your name, and where are you from?" This loose cultivator replied, "My name is Chen Liang, and I'm from Green Willow Continent." Wang Daoyuan asked his 8th uncle, Wang Shoujiang, "Where is Green Willow Continent?" Wang Shoujiang replied, "Upstream of the clear stream, outside the sky/mountain range, there is a very large basin. The terrain is low, and many streams converge, forming a large lake. There was a green willow tree in the middle of the lake. It had lived for an unknown number of years. Sand had accumulated near its roots, gradually forming a small island. After countless years, the small island had grown into a large island with a radius of several hundred li. It was called the Green Willow Island, and several loose cultivators of the foundation establishment stage worked together to establish a small market. Thus, many rogue cultivators have gathered in Green Willow Province, and many of them are even wanted by the 3 great sections." As soon as he finished speaking, Wang Shoujiang removed the heart-questioning talisman from Chen Liang's forehead and said, "May I know why Green Willow Region's Chen Daoyu has come here? The Wang family has no business dealings with Green Willow Province and has never had any enmity with them. Could it be that the Daoyu of Green Willow Province wants to rob Mirror Iron Mountain?" When Chen Liang heard this, he knew that his identity had been exposed. he might be handed over to the Netherworld sect. He was unyielding, neither servile nor overbearing. Dao Yu, why don't you continue to use the truth talisman? Wang Shoujiang said, my Wang family has no intention of becoming enemies with Green Willow Province. Since we know that Dao Yu is from Green Willow Province, we naturally have to treat you with respect. However, why did Green Willow Province send Dao Yu here? Dao Yu, please tell us. Chen Liang saw that Wang Shoujiang had no intention of killing him and said, my master told me to contact the Wang family and want to do business with you. I have no connections, so I can only go to Mirror Iron Mountain to scout for information. Wang Shoujiang asked with a strange expression, could it be that your master doesn't know about the Netherworld sect's ban? The Netherworld sect forbids its subordinate forces from doing business with rogue cultivators exiled in Sky Beheading Mountain Range. My Wang family's neck is not as hard as the Netherworld sect's blade. Please forgive us for not daring to do this business. Qin Liang hurriedly replied, of course my master knows about the Netherworld sect's ban. However, this ban is only superficial. In reality, there are many clans that have dealings with Green Willow Province. Some of the Netherworld sect's elders' clans are no exception. Green Willow Province is located in the periphery of Sky Beheading Mountain Range. Although the conditions are better, it is far from being as peaceful as Clear Glass Prefecture. Spirit herbs cannot be grown on a large scale in a place where spirit beasts run rampant. There is not even enough spirit grains to eat. In order to find spirit items, the cultivators of Green Willow Province have to go deep into the territory of spirit beasts. Coupled with the lack of magic tools, spirit talismans, and pills, the cultivators who go hunting in the mountains suffer heavy losses. My master doesn't expect the Wang family to sell anything good. He only wants the Wang family to sell some spirit grains, pills, and spirit talismans. If the Wang family is afraid of being implicated, Green Willow Province can send people to take the goods. The Wang family selling things to rogue cultivators in the Netherworld sect's territory is not violating the Netherworld sect's ban, right? Wang Shoujiang pondered. Wang Daoyuan asked, then what can my Wang family get from doing business with Green Willow Province? Don't talk to me about spirit stones. I can get these things in Clear Glass Market. There is no risk of losing my head. Qin Liang looked at Wang Daoyuan and felt that this young man was not easy to deal with. He smiled and said, Dao Yu, don't worry. How can this kind of business only use spirit stones? My master said that we can use spirit stones or barter. We can use the spirit herbs and ores in the periphery of Sky Beheading Mountain Range to exchange for Wang family's spirit grains, spirit talismans, and pills. Also, if the Wang family is interested in Green Willow Province market, my master can allow the Wang family to open a shop there. Wang Shoujiang was moved and said, I don't have the authority to agree to this. I need to ask the clan leader. In order to prevent the news from leaking, Dao Yu will have to stay at Mirror Iron Mountain for a few days. Saying this, Wang Shoujiang gave Qin Liang 10 spirit stones. Qin Liang took the spirit stones, and like the previous 3 rogue cultivators, he went out in high spirits. Wang Shoujiang asked Wang Daoyuan, Dao Yuan, what do you think about cooperating with Green Willow Province? Wang Daoyuan thought for a moment and replied, there is no loss in this matter. If we can use spirit grains and other resources to exchange for resources in Sky Beheading Mountain Range, it will be a great profit. Because the Foundation Establishment Pill will be auctioned in a year, all the clans are desperately selling their resources. Business is not good. If we can do business with Green Willow Province, it will be an excellent source of income. Our Wang family will have a greater chance of getting a Foundation Establishment Pill. However, I don't know much about Green Willow Province and can't make an accurate judgment. It's better to go back and ask the clan leader. Wang Shoujiang nodded and said, let's do it like that. I need to guard Mirror Iron Mountain and can't leave my post. Daoxing is unreliable, you should go back to the clan. Wang Daoxing protested, how am I unreliable? Did I make a mistake when I hit people? The two looked at him with disdain and ignored him. Wang Daoyuan replied, all right, I'll go back. I also need to report the missing people. I'll do both at the same time. There's no time to lose, I'll go now. Wang Shoujiang said, be careful on the road. You have Liang Zixing in your spirit beast pouch. Be careful when you pass through the Liang family's territory. It won't be easy if the Liang family finds you. Eighth uncle, don't worry. I'll be careful. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, I'll choose which path to take based on the situation. If there's no other way, I can take the land route back to Jade Spring Peak. After bidding farewell to eighth uncle, Wang Daoyuan left Mirror Iron Mountain. He took the clan's hematite ship downstream and disembarked at Qingxi village. It wasn't that he was delaying the journey, but that he had been injured by the soul-extinguishing bell when he was fighting with Qi Yun. At first, he was tense and didn't think much of it even though he felt a little uncomfortable. Only when he understood the situation and relaxed did he feel a splitting headache and a dull ache in his organs. His injuries weren't much of a problem. He just needed to eat some healing pills. His soul being damaged was no small matter. If it wasn't handled well, it might affect his future path. For the sake of his future, he temporarily stayed at home and recovered from his soul injuries. Chapter 76. The damage to the soul could be major or minor. If it was minor, it could be recovered after a good rest. If it was serious, it would require a secret technique or spiritual medicine to recover the soul. If he was in a hurry to return to the family and encountered enemies on the way, he would need to fight. If he used his divine sense too much, even a minor injury would become a serious injury. The doppelganger soul nurturing technique passed down by the 10,000 corpse sage was incomplete and did not have the ability to recover the soul. With his strength, it was difficult to obtain a spiritual medicine that could recover the soul. If he was seriously injured, it would be more difficult for him to break through in the future. It would be impossible for him to open up the Purple Mansion, let alone live forever. When he returned home to Qingxi village, he released Dahe. Dahe immediately returned to the gatehouse and did his job of guarding the door. As soon as he returned home, his parents came to ask about his well-being. Madame Wang Yang saw that her son's face was not right and asked with concern, Hua, why do you look so pale? He replied, I was carrying out a family mission at the Mirror Iron Mountain and was slightly injured. I'll be fine after resting at home for a few days. His parents were very worried, but they could not help. They could only worry. The second generation of the family had 3 sons, and the third generation only had 1 brat. He had no daughter, and his father had not taken in a concubine, so the backyard had always been empty. He directly lived in the backyard to avoid being disturbed. After choosing a place to live, Wang Daoyuan put a few orchids in the transplanted space into a flower pot and moved them out of the spiritual pearl space. He lay on the bed every day with a few pots of orchids beside the bed. Although he was not sure if the orchids had the effect of directly recovering the soul, the fragrance of the flowers could recover and improve the divine sense. It also had a positive effect on the soul, so their functions were similar. Smelling the fragrance of the flowers every day could more or less help. He did not know if the soul injury was really not deep or if the fragrance of the orchids had taken effect. After 5 or 6 days, the soul injury was basically healed. At this time, he dared to release his divine sense to explore the surroundings. He had heard that the village was very lively. Now that he scanned with his divine sense, he found that they were testing the spiritual roots of the 10-year-old children in the village. The person who came to test the spiritual roots was his 5th brother, Wang Daozong. Wang Daozong's aptitude was average. His main spiritual root was the wood attribute, and he walked the path of spiritual plants. He put the orchids back into the spiritual pearl space, walked out of the backyard, and greeted his parents. Seeing that their son's complexion was good, the 2 elders were relieved. Wang Daoyuan came to the village entrance and saw a group of people surrounding a white-robed youth. The youth was holding a palm-sized white jade plate. A few children around the age of 10 were lining up beside him. The child at the front of the line placed his hand on the white jade plate, The young man injected spiritual energy into the white jade plate. The white jade plate flickered slightly, but there was no change. The young man shook his head and said, "This child doesn't have a spirit root." That child's parents walked away with their child dejectedly, and the next child continued to have his spirit roots tested. He didn't step forward to disturb them. This was the first time he had seen such a scene. After all, he had been directly brought back to Jade Spring Peak by his 12th uncle, Wang Shui, when he was 5 years old. The spirit roots test had also been carried out in secret by several elders. Soon, it was the last child's turn. It was a girl. Wang Daozong injected some spirit energy into the white jade plate, causing it to flicker for a while. Suddenly, black, white, and green pillars of light appeared on the white jade plate. They represented the 3 attributes of water, metal, and wood respectively. The black pillar of light was the highest, reaching a little more than 5 inches. Wang Daozong revealed a happy expression and said, "Our luck this year is pretty good. We've met a medium seedling." The Wang clan had a generation every 50 years, and there were usually only 20 to 30 cultivators in each generation. On average, there would only be 1 cultivator every 2 years. Among them, more than a third were the descendants of the clan's cultivators. The probability of ordinary clan members becoming cultivators was very low. Being able to meet one was already considered good luck. The girl's parents held her hand and kowtowed to Wang Daozong to express their gratitude. Wang Daozong hurriedly stopped them and said, "There's no need for that. This child will follow me back to the clan and pay respects to the ancestral hall. She'll be my little sister, so there's no need for such formalities." "Right, little sister, from now on, call me 5th brother." The little girl shyly shouted, "5th brother." Wang Daozong smiled and agreed. Seeing that he was done, Wang Daoyuan walked over and called out, "5th brother, why is it our generation's turn to test for spirit roots?" Wang Daozong turned around and saw him. He smiled and said, "Oh, it's 7th brother. In the past few years, the clan has opened 2 new shops, so we're short on manpower. A while ago, 7th great-uncle unfortunately met with a mishap, so we don't have enough manpower. That's why I was sent out." "Right, 7th brother, why are you here?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "Before I joined the clan, I was from this village. A few days ago, I was injured at Mirror Iron Mountain, so I recuperated here for a few days. Just as I recovered, I met 5th brother." After saying that, Wang Daoyuan said to the little girl whose spirit roots had just been tested, "Little sister, call me 7th brother." The little girl obediently called him 7th brother. "Since you called me 7th brother, I'll give you a greeting gift." He took out a 1st level upper grade Divine Strider talisman. "This is a talisman for escaping. You'll use it when you start cultivating." Then he said to Wang Daozong, "5th brother, I have some 1st level lower grade crocodile meat here. Are you interested?" Of course, Wang Daozong was interested. The meat of a 1st level demonic beast was very beneficial to his cultivation. He hurriedly said, "How can I not be interested?" Wang Daoyuan took 5th brother home. Wang Daozong turned to the little girl and said, "Little sister, spend more time with your parents. I'll take you to the clan in the afternoon. You won't be able to see your parents before you turn 20. When they walked to the door, Wang Daozong looked at Dahe and said, "7th brother, your family is so magnificent that you use a 1st level lower grade spirit beast to guard the door." Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "When I came back a while ago, Dahe had just advanced. This crocodile wanted to take advantage of Dahe's advancement, so I caught it. At that time, 2nd brother happened to pass by, so I gave him half of the crocodile meat." When they entered the inner courtyard, Wang Fu saw that his son had brought an immortal, so he immediately ordered his wife and daughter-in-law to prepare food. Wang Daoyuan took Wang Daozong to the main hall and called Sanhua. He said, "5th brother, lend me the qi testing disc. My little brother is 9 years old. I'll test his spiritual root." Wang Daozong asked, "He's not 10 years old. Can he do it?" Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, my little brother's physique is different from ordinary people. He can eat 5 kilograms of spiritual grains for a meal. Do you think his physique is qualified? Wang Daozong was surprised. My God, this little guy can eat as much as 5 cultivators. His physique should be fine. Then, he took out the chi testing disc and went through the process. After inputting spiritual power, the chi testing disc quickly reacted. Red, green, white, and yellow light pillars lit up, but before it stabilized, the red and green light pillars disappeared. In the center of the chi testing disc, a blue light pillar that was 6 inches tall rose up, and there were traces of lightning flashing on the light pillar. Wang Daozong was shocked. This is a thunder spiritual root. Wang Daoyuan also didn't react for a while. With Sanhua's appetite, he definitely wasn't an ordinary person. He had expected him to have a spiritual root, but he didn't expect it to be one of the 3 mutated spiritual roots, the thunder spiritual root. Among ordinary people, it could be said that 1 in 10,000 people had a spiritual root. As for cultivators with mutated spiritual roots, it would be an exaggeration to say that 1 in 10,000 people had a mutated spiritual root. Moreover, the thunder spiritual root was undeniably the most destructive of the 9 great elements. It was also extremely effective against evil things. In addition, Sanhua had a special physique. Perhaps he had a special thunder spiritual root. Although his little brother's thunder spiritual root was only 6 inches long and could only be considered above average, with his special physique, his talent could be considered above average. Chapter 77. Wang Fu and Madame Wang Yang had mixed feelings about third baby's spiritual root. They were happy that their youngest son, who had always been a worry to them, could also have a bright future. They were worried that the path of cultivation was not easy. Even second baby, who had been sensible since childhood, was injured. Their youngest son had been reckless since childhood and had no one to take care of him when he left home. After dinner, Wang Daozong had to take the child with the spiritual root back to Jade Spring Peak. Wang Daoyuan also had to go back to report the situation to the patriarch, so they set off together. Madame Wang Yang knew that her 2 sons were about to leave. With tears in her eyes, she kept reminding them to be careful outside and not to starve or freeze. Wang Daoyuan comforted them, "Father, mother, don't worry. With me here, I won't mistreat third baby." Walking to the door, he said to Dahe, "Dahe, are you willing to go to the family's spiritual mountain with me? If you go back with me, you will have a chance to become a 2nd-level spirit beast in the future." Dahe showed a conflicted expression. It looked at its kennel and then at the people at home. After thinking for a long time, it shook its head. Alas! He sighed, took out a storage bag, and handed it to Dahe. "Dahe, there are 100 spirit-gathering pills in here. They can improve your cultivation. Become stronger as soon as possible and protect my family for me." Dahe bit the storage bag, nodded, and turned back to the kennel. It dug a hole on the brick ground in the corner of the gatehouse and buried the storage bag. It shook its head and wagged its tail to bid farewell to Wang Daoyuan. Seeing Dahe's behavior, everyone was helpless. It had already become a spirit beast, but it still behaved like this. Who would dare to steal its things? Did it need to dig a hole to bury it? A hole had been dug through the ground. Wang Daoyuan untied a bulging storage bag from his waist and handed it to his father, saying, "Father, there are hundreds of kilograms of spiritual grains in here. Eat some often and it can prolong your life. Don't worry and eat. I don't lack these things. After you finish eating, I'll send more to you. Tie the storage bag properly, otherwise it will attract insects and even wild beasts. When you want to eat, ask Dahe to help you untie the storage bag. I've already taught it." The reason why it was put in the storage bag was because the spiritual grains were too attractive to birds, beasts, fish, and insects. If it was directly stored in an ordinary container, it would probably be stolen and eaten up quickly. If a demonic beast was attracted, it would be dangerous. She then said to her eldest brother, Senhua and I won't be able to come back often in the future, so I'll leave father and mother to you. Wang Meng nodded and said, second brother, third brother, I'm here. Don't worry. Wang Daozong saw that he had prepared the soul-gathering pill for Dahe and said, it's said that seventh brother is the richest in our generation. You really live up to your reputation. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, that was in the past. In the future, I have to support my younger brother. With his appetite, I won't be able to become rich. After bidding farewell to his family and picking up his younger sister, he boarded the ore transport ship of Mount Mirror Iron and left Clear Shi village. In order to prevent the Liang family from discovering any clues, he put Liang Zixing's spirit beast pouch into the space of the spirit pearl. After he cultivated the doppelganger's soul nurturing technique, he would carefully investigate the Liang family's background. 5 or 6 days later, Wang Daoyuan and the others changed into a spirit ship to return to Jade Spring Peak at Clearly Market. Because it was empty, and with the help of several family disciples taking turns to drive it, it only took a little more than a day to reach Sleeping Bow Pond. After returning to Jade Spring Peak, Wang Daozong first brought them to the executive hall to report the results of the spirit root test to the head elder. When the head elder saw the 2 children, he smiled so widely that his teeth could be seen. In the past, there was often no child with a spirit root, but this year, there were 2, which made him overjoyed. The head elder asked kindly, how are the talents of these 2 little fellows? Wang Daozong replied, 6th granduncle, this younger sister has 3 spirit roots. Her main spirit root is the water spirit root, which is 5 inches and 4 centimeters. This younger brother is Dao Yuan's biological younger brother. He also has 3 spirit roots, and his main spirit root is the thunder spirit root, which is 6 inches and 5 centimeters. The head elder was extremely surprised. What? Thunder spirit root? And he's Dao Yuan's biological younger brother. If I remember correctly, Dao Yuan's parents are both mortals, right? It's 1 in 1,000 for a mortal couple to give birth to a child with a spirit root, but they actually gave birth to 2? Dao Yuan, are you sure your parents are both mortals? Wang Daoyuan replied, they are indeed mortals. My father also had his spirit root tested when he was young. My mother is a member of the Yang clan, so she must have her spirit root tested too. If she has spirit root, it's impossible that it couldn't be tested. The head elder exclaimed, then you 2 brothers are really lucky. Your parents are both mortals, and you both have spirit roots. This little fellow even has a thunder spirit root which is more than 6 inches. It's not easy. I'll go make some arrangements. Tomorrow, these 2 little fellows will go to the ancestral hall to acknowledge their ancestors. Early the next morning, the 2 little fellows changed into smaller family clothes, walked into the ancestral hall, and kowtowed to the ancestral tablets. After that, the head elder gave the 2 little fellows names. The little girl was 12, and was named Wang Daoxian. The third child was 13, and was named Wang Daoyin. Wang Daoyin's name was also meaningful. He had a thunder spirit root, which restrained evil, and the Netherworld sect was the biggest evil. Although the Netherworld sect wouldn't openly kill Wang Daoyin, they wouldn't be happy to see him grow. Thus, it was best for Wang Daoyin to hide his thunder spirit root. Moreover, he was quite jumpy. Giving him this name also warned him to keep a low profile. After naming them, the head elder personally wrote their names into the family tree. Finally, he took a strand of their souls and made it into a soul lamp. If they were alive, the lamp would be lit, and if they were dead, the lamp would be extinguished. The strand of souls taken out was very small, so it didn't cause much damage to the soul. It could be recovered quickly, and there wouldn't be any permanent damage. After doing all this, he bowed to the elders present one by one. From then on, the 2 little fellows were officially part of the family. After the ceremony, the 2 little fellows were sent to Wang Jiza to be trained by the old man. Wang Daoyuan wanted to report the matter of Mirror Iron Mountain, so he asked the head elder, 5th great uncle, I have something to report to you about Mirror Iron Mountain. It's a big matter, and I need all the elders to discuss it together. Seeing the solemn expression on his face, Wang Jian knew that the matter wasn't a small one. He immediately summoned all the elders who were still on Jade Spring Peak to the main hall to discuss the matter. All the elders quickly arrived. Wang Jian said, "Daoyuan, all the elders are here. What happened at Mirror Iron Mountain? Tell us about it." Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "Head elder, elders, there are 2 reasons for this meeting. The first is that the head elder ordered me to find a way out for the family." He hadn't finished speaking when all the elders began to discuss it. When all the elders quieted down, he continued, "The incident at Mirror Iron Mountain was caused by an evil cultivator. He used a secret soul technique to control the clan members and a few monsters in the mine. He worked together to take down the miners and refine their corpses. I disguised myself as a loose cultivator and entered the mine. That evil cultivator had designs on me, so I pretended to be tricked and was taken to the evil cultivator's lair by the monsters. After a fierce battle, I took down that evil cultivator. That evil cultivator's abode is located next to an underground river that's several hundred feet deep. The entrance is hidden in a stone wall. The abode is about 50 mu in size, and there's even a second-tier low-grade spirit spring inside." All the elders became excited again. Head elder Wang Jiren hurriedly asked, "So that means our Wang family has a secret abode?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "That's indeed the case. That spirit spring is more than enough for an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator to cultivate. There are about 5 to 6 mu of spirit fields in the abode, and there's also a pool. If it's properly renovated, we can open up another 10 mu of spirit fields and raise some spirit fish. It's enough to support an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator and more than 30 qi condensation cultivators." After saying that, he took out a pot of orchids from his space and said, "There's also a kind of mutated orchid in the abode. This one in my hand is one of them. The fragrance of the orchid can restore the power of the divine sense and also increase the cultivation of the divine sense." Chapter 78. There is such a thing? Fourth uncle Wang Shouyuan instantly became interested. As a ling plant farmer, he naturally had to study special ling plants when he saw them. He snatched the orchid and examined it closely. Seventh uncle Wang Shouhong also came forward and sniffed hard at the orchid. He said, "The scent of this orchid does have some effect on the soul. It can refresh the mind, increase the cultivation of the consciousness, and also recover the power of the consciousness. Just the effect of recovering the consciousness is far better than the clear spirit pill. As to whether it can heal the wounds of the soul, that's hard to say. Since my soul isn't injured, I can't tell. If it's making dan and seals, smelling this scent can greatly increase the efficiency. In the future, we can study if it can be made into dan." "Right, Daoyuan, what is the name of this orchid?" Wang Daoyuan responded, "I don't know the name of this orchid. It is different from the orchid species I know. This thing grows beside the Ling Spring. If it's in a dark place, it can give off a serene blue light. It should be a new species. How about the elders give it a name?" Wang Shouyuan was a little tempted, but he still refused. "Since Dao Yuan was the one who discovered it, then you can name it." Wang Daoyuan declined, "I don't know much about ling plants." "Fourth uncle, you are a ling plant farmer and know more about this than me. You can name it." To be able to personally name a ling plant was a great honor for a ling plant farmer. He declined again and again, so Wang Shouyuan wasn't polite. "Since Dao Yuan has given me this chance, then I will shamelessly name it. This orchid is shaped like a butterfly and can give off a serene blue light. Then let's call it the Jade Butterfly Serene Orchid. What does Dao Yuan think?" Wang Daoyuan naturally didn't have any objections. "Fourth uncle's name is very appropriate. I have no objections." Finishing, he took out the bead that controlled the formation in the dwelling. This bead is what controls the formation in the dwelling. That formation is not normal. It uses the Ling Spring as the eye of the formation and the water Ling energy from the Ling Spring as the source of energy. It doesn't need Ling stones to operate on its own. Previously, in order to enter the dwelling to investigate, I have already taken it as my master. Now, I have removed the ownership and turned it over to the clan. Clan leader Wang Jian waved his hand and said, "No need. It is the same in anyone's hands. Since you found it, it will stay with you. You said you have 2 things to report. What's the other thing?" Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "Reporting to Patriarch, when I was investigating whether there were any evil cultivators inside Mount Mirror Iron, I also checked the 5 loose cultivators in Mount Mirror Iron. There were no problems with the 3 of them. As for the remaining 2, one was from the Liang family, which I conveniently dealt with. The other was from the Green Willow Island, and his name was Chen Liang. According to Chen Liang, he is the subordinate of a foundation establishment cultivator from the Green Willow state. That foundation establishment cultivator wants to do business with our Wang family. Furthermore, you can use the various resources of the sky/mountain range to exchange for spirit grains, spirit talismans, spirit pills, etc. The location of the transaction will be decided by us. They can send people to our Wang family's territory to get the goods. That Chen Liang is still disguised as a miner at Mirror Iron Mountain. 8th uncle and I don't dare to make the decision, so 8th uncle ordered me to come back and ask for instructions from the Patriarch and the various elders." Wang Jian pondered for a moment and said, "Who else knows about these 2 matters?" Wang Daoyuan replied, 8th uncle and 2nd brother know about the news of people from the Green Willow Island. As for the matter of the cave residents, 8th uncle and 2nd brother are straightforward people. I was afraid they would leak the news, so I didn't tell them." Wang Jian nodded with satisfaction. "You did well. Since the matter of the cave residents hasn't been leaked, then send people to manage it first. The matter of the Green Willow Island isn't urgent. We can slowly discuss it. Dao Yuan has made a great contribution this time. Grand Elder, reward Dao Yuan with 10,000 clan contribution points. In addition, no one is allowed to leak these 2 matters. Only the clan elders can know." All the elders agreed. The remaining time was for the various elders to discuss whether to trade with the Green Willow Island. Wang Daoyuan wasn't an elder and didn't have the authority to express his opinion. There was no point in staying, so he bid farewell and left. After returning to the cave residence, he opened the cave residence's restriction and began to cultivate the doppelganger soul nurturing technique in seclusion. The doppelganger soul nurturing technique wasn't a simple secret technique. It was a combination of many secret techniques. There was the soul-splitting blade, a soul-nurturing technique, a soul-nurturing technique. The first step to cultivating the doppelganger soul-nurturing technique was to use the power of the soul-splitting blade to condense it. The second step was to use the soul-splitting blade to chop out a part of the soul and simply nurture it to prevent the part from collapsing. Then use the soul-splitting blade to ruthlessly slash the clone, destroying the clone's intelligence and consciousness. Inject the part of the soul into the clone's body and fuse it with the clone's soul. What was left was the soul-nurturing stage. The clone could use the soul-nurturing technique to nurture the part of the soul. The main body could also use the soul-nurturing technique to strengthen the main soul and enhance the cultivation of the divine sense. After nurturing the part of the soul to a certain extent, the main soul would be retrieved and fused with the main soul using the soul fusion technique. The doppelganger soul nurturing technique in his hands was incomplete in the soul fusion technique. After all, repairing soul damage was an extremely valuable secret technique. It couldn't be taught casually. The 10,000 Corpse Daoist master didn't have a high status in the past and didn't learn the core part of the secret technique. The other shortcomings were completely caused by the 10,000 Corpse Daoist master's lack of a follow-up technique. Unfortunately, the 10,000 Corpse Daoist master had embarked on the wrong path of dividing the soul and controlling the corpse. He didn't continue to repair the doppelganger soul nurturing technique, causing this secret technique to be incomplete. If he could spend a lot of energy and continue to study it, with the knowledge and cultivation of a golden core Daoist master, even if he couldn't restore it, he could still derive it to the golden core realm and make up for the shortcomings of the soul fusion technique. With Wang Daoyuan's cultivation and knowledge, it was impossible for him to derive the technique. He could only cultivate according to the version left by the 10,000 corpse Daoist master. Perhaps his divine sense was more powerful than the average person's. It only took him half a day to successfully condense the soul-splitting blade. This soul-splitting blade could sever one's own soul and also injure the souls of others. It was a very strong divine sense attack technique. Divine sense attack techniques were extremely rare and only a few big forces had them. Moreover, it wasn't something that ordinary people could learn. These divine sense attack techniques could only be cultivated at the foundation establishment stage. The divine sense and soul of a chi refining cultivator were too weak. If they weren't careful, they might injure themselves. The condensed attack wouldn't be enough to forcibly break through the opponent's sea of consciousness. The cultivation method of the doppelganger soul nurturing technique was to use the doppelganger to nourish the soul. To obtain a doppelganger, one must be able to break through the opponent's sea of consciousness and destroy the opponent's intelligence and consciousness. Therefore, it was necessary to have an extremely powerful divine sense attack technique. Thus, the soul-splitting blade was created. The soul-splitting blade's attack power was extremely strong. The soul-splitting blade condensed by a chi-refining cultivator's divine sense was enough to break through the opponent's sea of consciousness. However, the power and price always corresponded. The greater the power, the greater the price. When a middle chi-refining cultivator cultivated the soul-splitting blade, they would need to consume all of their divine sense to condense it. When they reached the late chi-refining stage, they would also need to consume 70 to 80% of their divine sense. Wang Daoyuan's divine sense power was comparable to the general peak of chi refining, but condensing the soul-splitting blade also consumed more than 60% of his divine sense power. Moreover, if the divine sense cultivation was not as good as the opponent, the soul-splitting blade could not kill the opponent in one blow. It would also cause great damage to the enemy's soul. As a price, one's own soul would also suffer from the backlash. The greater the gap between the two sides' divine sense cultivation, the more serious the backlash. This was the desperate fighting method of exchanging injury for injury. If the doppelganger soul nurturing technique could repair the damage to the soul, then there was no need to care about the damage to the soul. Severely injuring one's own soul in exchange for the opponent's complete destruction, the creator of this secret technique was really ruthless. Unfortunately, the current doppelganger soul nurturing technique couldn't repair the damage to the soul, so he didn't dare to use the secret technique on people whose divine sense cultivation was stronger than his own. Chapter 79. After Wang Daoyuan condensed the soul blade, he decisively slashed at the edge of his soul. The soul of a chi refinement cultivator has not yet formed, and in the sea of consciousness, it is only a human-shaped cloud. Wang Daoyuan cut nearly 1% of the cloud and almost fainted from the pain. This feeling was even more serious than the last time he was hurt by the soul-extinguishing bell. Enduring the pain, he wrapped the soul with the power of divine sense and stabilized it with the soul-nourishing secret technique to prevent it from collapsing automatically. If the soul fragment collapses, Wang Daoyuan's soul will also be left with a wound that cannot be healed by itself. After using the soul-nourishing secret technique for 3 days and 3 nights, the soul fragment stabilized and met the requirements to merge with the avatar. Wang Daoyuan's entire soul entered the space of the spirit pearl and took out Liang Zixing from a spirit beast bag. This guy still had the soul-subduing talisman on his head and was sleeping soundly. Wang Daoyuan didn't want to torture him anymore, it was good to let him die in a daze. Condensing the soul-splitting blade, he directly slashed at Liang Zixing's forehead. Liang Zixing is at the 5th level of Qi refinement realm, his divine sense is far worse than Wang Daoyuan's, and he is in a coma, there is no resistance at all. The soul-splitting blade broke through his sea of consciousness and slashed at the soul. The human-shaped cloud in Liang Zixing's sea of consciousness directly dispersed. Wang Daoyuan's soul fragment took the opportunity to enter Liang Zixing's sea of consciousness. The soul-splitting blade turned into pure divine sense power, condensing the scattered cloud with the soul fragment as the core. After the condensation, the soul fragment occupied the part of the human-shaped cloud's forehead. Soon, the soul fragment woke up and began to dominate Liang Zixing's soul and control his body. At this time, more than 200 miles northeast of Qingli City, in a hall on Qingyun Peak, the flame of an oil lamp flickered a few times and was about to go out, then it stabilized and the flame gradually returned to normal. However, no one noticed all this. And that oil lamp has Liang Zixing's name written on it. This is Liang Zixing's soul lamp. After spending a day in the space, the split soul completely took control of the doppelganger. He opened his eyes and looked at the space in the spiritual pearl. At that moment, Wang Daoyuan felt very strange. He felt as if he had been split into two. He was in two different places at the same time, seeing two different scenes. Furthermore, the flow of time in the two places was 20 times faster. If he stayed in this state for too long, it would definitely drive him crazy. Luckily, the host soul could shut off the panoramic sensing of the clones. It could only sense where the clones were and could contact them directly without using the soul consciousness or language. Of course, this kind of connection had a distance limit. He could only guarantee absolute control of the divided soul within 5 kilometers. However, the space of the spirit pearl was a little special. As the owner of the space of the spirit pearl, and the spirit pearl was in his sea of consciousness, the distance between the main soul and the sub-soul in the space was 0. If someone else cultivated the doppelganger soul nurturing technique and placed their doppelganger into the spiritual pearl, the distance between their main soul and the doppelganger would be infinitely far. Next, he took out 2 pots of jade butterfly orchid from the space and placed them in the cave. The doppelganger in the space of the spirit pearl also meditated near the jade butterfly orchid. With the help of the fragrance of the jade butterfly orchid, the effect of nourishing the soul was better, and the soul grew faster. In just 3 days, the injury of the soul was stabilized. Although it was impossible to completely recover without merging with the divided soul, at least there was no more pain. Outsiders could not see that his soul was injured. And the doppelganger had the help of the 20 times faster time flow in the space of the spirit pearl. It had already completed the fusion of the divided soul and the original soul of the doppelganger, repairing the damage caused by the soul-splitting blade. The doppelganger Liang Zixing also did chores in the space such as feeding the fish, harvesting and sowing the spirit grains. The doppelganger soul nurturing technique also had a soul-searching effect. After the soul-splitting blade destroyed the doppelganger's intelligence and consciousness, its memory would not disappear. Instead, it would continue to exist in the doppelganger's sea of consciousness. Of course, the memory might be incomplete. After eating the soul-splitting blade, the doppelganger's intelligence and consciousness were obliterated. It was inevitable that the memory would be damaged. After the divided soul merged with the soul, it could pry into the doppelganger's previous memories. Wang Daoyuan naturally would not give up this great opportunity to pry into the secrets of the Liang clan. The divided soul had been prying into Liang Zixing's memories these days while doing chores. This method of prying into memories was a bit like watching a movie in his previous life. The doppelganger's previous experiences would be shown one by one. Fortunately, Liang Zixing was still a virgin. Otherwise, this prying into memories would be more awkward. Through this method, Wang Daoyuan understood that Liang Zixing was not a dispensable person in the Liang clan. He was the son of a foundation establishment elder in the Liang clan. This elder had 2 sons who were cultivators. The other was a complete waste. Only this son was passable. He had 3 spirit roots, and his main spirit root was the 6-inch 9-part fire spirit root. His talent was not bad, but it was not the best either. He was not ranked in the top few in the Liang clan. In terms of status, the Liang clan had 6 or 7 foundation establishment cultivators. Above this elder were the clan leader, the grand elder, and a few ordinary elders. He was not ranked. With Liang in the Liang clan, it was not difficult to get a foundation establishment pill from the Netherworld sect. However, the Liang clan had several foundation establishment cultivators, so it was impossible for them to give the foundation establishment pill to Liang Zixing. This elder did not want his descendant to sink like this. Therefore, he found a dangerous job for Liang Zixing, which was to go undercover in the Mirror Iron Mountain. In the future, they would work together to seize the Mirror Iron Mountain. With this contribution, they might be qualified to fight for the foundation establishment pill. The Liang clan had always wanted to annex the Wang clan for many reasons. Factional disputes were one of them, but it was not the main reason. The reason Liang hated the Wang clan was that when he was still an itinerant cultivator, he had a few good friends who eventually joined the Cruel Sun Palace. When the three sects rebelled, the Wang clan's patriarch, Wang Qingzu, killed the cultivators of the Cruel Sun Palace. Two of Liang's good friends were also killed. Therefore, Liang hated the Wang clan. Later, the Wang clan joined the Yang clan's patriarch, Yang Yong, in order to protect themselves. Liang had a grudge with Yang Yong to begin with, so he disliked the Wang clan even more. Furthermore, the Wang clan had one of the best spirit veins in Qingli County. Although it had fallen to superior grade 3, it was still a middle grade for spirit vein, and there was still a chance for it to recover in the future. Jade Spring Peak was a spirit vein that could be used as the foundation of a golden core family. Be it in terms of scale or grade, it was several streets ahead of the Liang clan's Blue Cloud Peak. With these reasons, as well as the Liang clan's unreasonable and forceful style, it wasn't strange that they wanted to destroy the Wang clan. Wang Daoyuan also discovered another secret from Liang Zixing's memories. The Liang clan's patriarch had dealings with the Cruel Sun Palace. Liang's good friends who joined the Cruel Sun Palace did not die, and one of them even became a Purple Mansion elder. Furthermore, that Cruel Sun Palace elder had always been in contact with Liang. Recently, there was also the matter of the two sects joining forces to attack the Netherworld sect. Therefore, the Liang clan wanted to leave a way out. However, the Liang clan's territory was surrounded by the Wang, Yang and Meng clans, and they did not even have room for development, let alone a way out. Therefore, Liang secretly thought of colluding with the Cruel Sun Palace. Of course, Liang was not a fool. He only hinted to the Cruel Sun Palace elder that he had this intention and did not actually take action. Only the Liang clan's patriarch and a few elders knew about this matter. Liang Zixing had only heard his father mention it by chance. When Wang Daoyuan learned of this secret, he really wanted to send Liang Zixing back to the Liang clan as a spy to find irrefutable evidence of the Liang clan colluding with the Cruel Sun Palace and then expose the Liang clan. However, he could only think about it. If the doppelganger soul nurturing technique could repair the damage to the soul, he would dare to do so. Now that the doppelganger soul nurturing technique did not have this ability, once Liang Zixing was killed, Wang Daoyuan's split soul would not be able to escape. Before finding a spirit item that could repair the damage to the soul, Wang Daoyuan definitely did not dare to take this risk. Chapter 80. Wang Daoyuan also peeked at Liang Zixing's cultivation method and magic arts. Unfortunately, this kid didn't cultivate any powerful techniques. Because he wasn't a foundation establishment seed of the Liang clan, he only cultivated the most common fire attribute technique, the leaf fire art. This technique was already common. However, the spells that Liang Zixing cultivated were quite interesting. He was at the 5th stage of qi condensation, but when he entered the Mirror Iron Mountain, he only appeared to be at the 2nd stage. The reason was that he had cultivated a spell called the breath concealing technique. This spell was not very advanced, but it could hide one's spirit qi fluctuations. It could only deceive qi refinement cultivators, but foundation establishment cultivators had strong divine senses and could not be deceived. In addition, there was also a technique called appearance changing technique. It could change one's appearance. It should have originated from the mortal world and was later improved by cultivators. The disguise technique was divided into 2 types, one with spiritual energy and the other without spiritual energy. Without spirit power, one could change one's appearance by adjusting the position of one's facial muscles. The change wouldn't be large and the change to one's figure would be even smaller. By using spiritual power, one could completely disguise one's body. Wang Daoyuan judged that it came from the mortal world based on the fact that it could be cast without the use of spiritual energy. Without spirit power, there was no need to worry about magic arts being able to see through the disguise technique. Unless the opponent was a Zifu realm cultivator and could directly peek into the soul, they wouldn't be able to see one's true appearance. If one used spirit power, one's body would have obvious spirit power fluctuations. This was clearly telling the opponent that one was using a disguise technique. Unless one's spiritual sense was far stronger than the opponent's, they could use the power of their spiritual sense to conceal the spirit power fluctuations. Generally speaking, using spirit power was more suitable for dealing with opponents with weak spiritual senses. Not using spirit power was more suitable for hiding in front of experts. With these two techniques, Wang Daoyuan could try to sneak into the oasis and sell spirit talismans and spirit grains there without worrying about implicating the Wang clan. In addition to the aura concealing technique and appearance changing technique, there were also some fire attribute techniques that were useless against Wang Daoyuan. Ever since he captured Qi Yun, he had been busy and forgot to check Qi Yun's storage pouch. At that time, he was in a hurry to find the doppelganger soul and nurturing technique, so he only took out the bead that controlled the array from his storage bag. He didn't check what was inside. As a Peak Foundation establishment cultivator, how could Qi Yun not have anything good in his storage bag? Wang Daoyuan opened Qi Yun's storage pouch. Inside, there were 3 jade slips and a few mid-grade spirit stones. He was somewhat disappointed. A Grand Peak Foundation establishment cultivator only has this much. How embarrassing. But after thinking about it, he understood. Qi Yun was being hunted down like a grandson. If he had any good items, he would have already used them to save his life. Why would he keep them? Next, he checked the 3 jade slips. The first jade slip was the cultivation technique that Qi Yun had cultivated before he received the inheritance, the Gold Fury art. It could be cultivated up to the Violet Palace realm. The Golden Ferocious art nurtured baleful aura through slaughter. Using the baleful aura to fight against the enemy would not only harm the physical body but also the soul. Its lethality was above that of the metal-attributed spiritual energy. It was an extremely domineering cultivation technique. It seemed that this Qi Yun was not a kind person. He cultivated by killing. Who knew how many lives he had taken? If he had not coincidentally broken the sound wave attack, he probably would have died at his hands as well. The second jade slip was trash. It recorded the secret technique of Qi Yun spitting out corrosive black smoke and needle-shaped magic tools during his battle with Wang Daoyuan. This thing required corpse qi and baleful aura to cultivate. Hiding corpse qi in one's stomach was disgusting. It was better to throw it aside. The third jade slip made Wang Daoyuan overjoyed. It recorded the knowledge of formations. Qi Yun was a second-grade formation master. The formations in the secret cave were created by him. This jade slip recorded the basic knowledge of formations and dozens of formations. Among them, there were more than 10 second-grade formations. Apart from that, this jade slip also recorded Qi Yun's insights into formations. This was the complete inheritance of an upper-grade Tier 2 array master. Moreover, it contained more insights than an ordinary array master's inheritance. These insights could help beginners to master array masters faster. The Wang family needed a formation master to rebuild the family's protective formation and repair the chasing wave boat. However, the formation inheritance was not important to the Wang family. It was too difficult to nurture a formation master. That was because the market demand for formations was very small. Moreover, the factions that set up formations would look for famous formation masters. Therefore, formation masters who were not famous would not be able to generate any income for a long time. They could only rely on the family to support them. Moreover, it was very likely that formation masters would die of old age before they could generate any income. This was not a price that a foundation establishment family could afford. Even Zifu family clans generally did not nurture formation masters. Therefore, this formation inheritance was not very useful to the Wang family. However, Wang Daoyuan could learn it. However, he would not learn it himself. He would let his clone learn it. With the help of space and time flowing 20 times faster, even a pig would have some achievements. In the future, when the clone and main soul merged, he would be able to inherit what the clone had learned. Of course, what the clone had learned through the clone was not fully inherited by the main soul. However, when he learned formations in the future, he would already know all the techniques and tricks before he started. The only thing he lacked was practical operation. With a little practice, he would be able to grasp it very well. If Wang Daoyuan could refine the body that Qi Yun had taken over into a clone, he would probably only need a very short time to become a second-stage formation master. This was the effect of prying into other people's memories. Of course, it was also possible that he would not learn anything after prying into other people's memories. Success was 99% sweat and 1% inspiration. Prying into the clone's memories and then merging the clone with the main soul only saved 99% of the sweat. Without that 1% inspiration, he might not learn anything. After all, even if he taught hand to hand, there were still people who could not be taught. Moreover, prying into other people's memories was equivalent to watching teaching videos. In addition, because the clone's soul had been heavily injured, its cultivation and learning of the various arts of cultivation were much slower than ordinary people. There was no problem in learning the basics. It was not reliable to expect the clone to have high attainments. It was only used to accumulate experience. Even if refining Qi Yun into a clone had great benefits, Wang Daoyuan did not dare to make a move at this time. He didn't know what Qi Yun's current situation was, but if his spiritual energy was stronger than his, then even if the soul-splitting blade could cut through Qi Yun's consciousness and spirit, his soul would suffer irreparable damage. He didn't dare take such a risk. Wang Daoyuan helplessly said to himself, taking care of Qi Yun and Liang Zixing and sneaking back to the Liang family to gather information. These two important matters were delayed because I was afraid of damaging my soul. Why couldn't the 10,000 corpse spiritual master properly deduce the soul-merging secret technique? It was impossible for him to deduce it himself. Without knowledge and cultivation, he could only hope to find a spirit medicine to repair the damage to his soul. Of Qi Yun's belongings, only the Golden Fury art and the formation inheritance could be handed over to the family. He would keep the rest for himself. However, he had to leave behind a copy of the formation inheritance. After putting away Qi Yun's belongings, Wang Daoyuan took out Liang Zixing's storage bag. This was relatively shabby. There was only a first-rank mid-grade fire attribute sword, some spirit grains, and a few spirit stones inside. After all, Liang Zixing was going undercover and disguised as a second-level Qi disciple. If he brought too many things, it would be easy for him to be exposed. If this kid had not tried to strike up a conversation with him and acted more like a rogue cultivator, Wang Daoyuan would not have suspected him. The consequences could have been very serious. Chapter 81. He hadn't eaten anything after so many days of closed-door cultivation. Now that he was done, he felt hungry. His spiritual awareness entered the space of the spiritual bead to see if there was anything delicious. The fiery sun wood and golden silk spirit jujube had been planted for more than a month. According to the time and the space, it had been more than 2 years. The fiery sun wood had already begun to flower and bear seeds. Now there was a third generation of fiery sunwood sapling. The sapling of the golden silk spirit jujube was indeed fine. It had grown to the height of a person and the thickness of an arm. Although ordinary jujube trees could bear fruit when they sprouted, the golden silk spirit jujube was obviously not the same. It still hadn't bloomed and bore fruit. However, this was normal. After all, it was a rare and valuable spiritual plant. How could it bear fruit so easily? The 5 lotus seeds planted had successfully sprouted and grown. However, they had grown in the space for more than 2 years and still hadn't bloomed. This was definitely not black water lotus. Black water lotus was a spiritual plant of the lower grade of the first level. With sufficient spiritual energy, it could bloom and bear fruit in a year. In the space of the spiritual bead, there were spiritual fields of the lower grade of the second level. In 2 years, it should be 2 seasons long. Like black water lotus, but not black water lotus, it could really be black jade lotus. It didn't take up much space, so he just let it grow. The spiritual wheat transplanted in the underground cave residence had been multiplied for several generations in the space of the spiritual bead. At first, there were only a few stalks. Wang Daoyuan sowed all the harvested spiritual wheat as seeds. After several generations of reproduction, the scale was not small. He changed the 1 mu of spiritual grains in the space to spiritual wheat. The growth period of spiritual wheat was slightly longer than that of spiritual grains. But with a time acceleration of 20 times, it only took 5 days to harvest. The output of spiritual wheat was also slightly higher than that of spiritual grains. In the outside world, spiritual grains produced 200 caddies per mu. There were no pests in the space, and there were soul-chasing bees to help pollinate. The output of spiritual wheat was estimated to be more than 300 caddies per mu. In addition to keeping 20 caddies of spiritual wheat as seeds, there were still 50 to 60 caddies of spiritual wheat that could be eaten. Wang Daoyuan ordered his clone to grind all the 50 to 60 caddies of spiritual wheat into flour and then roll it into dumpling wrappers. Unfortunately, there was only fish meat in the space, so he could only eat fish dumplings. The filling of the dumplings was only fish meat with salt, and there were no other vegetables. Even so, Wang Daoyuan still ate until tears streamed down his face. After 20 years, I finally get to eat dumplings again. Although the meat filling is a little lacking, it's still dumplings. The next time I go out, I must collect some vegetables and plant them in the space. At the very least, I need scallions, ginger, and garlic. I also need to raise a few pigs and sheep. I really can't get used to the taste of fish dumplings. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, he remembered that his little brother had already been in the clan for a few days. There was a limit to the amount of resources the family gave to the underage disciples. Her younger brother's situation was special. The family had never encountered such a situation before, so there was no special provision. It was still distributed according to the amount of spirit grains given to normal underage disciples. He was probably starving to death. After all, he was her younger brother. She didn't lack food. She couldn't just watch him starve. He had his doppelganger knead the dough, roll out the dumpling skin, and wrap more than 10 kilograms of dumplings. He cooked all of them and sent them to his younger brother. Although his younger brother couldn't eat that much, his great-grandfather still had a few younger brothers and sisters. He couldn't let his younger brother eat dumplings while the other younger brothers and sisters watched. Besides, he had to let his great-grandfather have a taste of the new food that he had created. Wang Daoyuan packed the dumplings in a food box and went straight to the library tower. The underage disciples in the clan spent most of their time in the Tripitaka Tower, practicing cultivation techniques, dharma spells, and reading the books in the tower. When he arrived near the library tower, he saw Wang Daoyin eating the spirit grains pitifully. It was obvious that he hadn't eaten enough in the past few days. Wang Daoyin almost burst into tears when he saw his second brother coming with the food box. He ate half a bowl of spirit grains in one gulp and rushed to Wang Daoyuan. When he arrived in front of Wang Daoyuan, he couldn't wait to open the food box. When he saw the dumplings, he asked curiously, "Brother, what's this? Is it edible?" Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Of course it's edible. It's a new food that I just created." When he heard Wang Daoyuan say it was edible, Wang Daoyin immediately picked up a pair of chopsticks to pick up the dumplings. Wang Daoyuan patted his head and said, "If you have something good, give it to your elders first. Don't be so casual in the clan." You have to know how to respect your elders, okay? Wang Daoyin nodded and took the food box. He ran to his great-grandfather, Wang Jiza, who was sitting under the pine tree. Wang Jiza was also curious when he saw the dumplings and asked, Daoyuan, what's this? Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, Great-grandfather, these are dumplings. They're a new food that I created. Wang Jiza picked up his chopsticks and tasted one. He said, these dumplings are really good. How did you make them? Great-grandfather. Wang Daoyuan replied, the skin of the dumplings is made from spirit grains and the filling is made from fish. It's a pity that I didn't have any seasoning, so I could only make them like this. Wang Jiza nodded and said, it's already very good that you can make them like this with simple ingredients. You've been a glutton since you were young, but you're also smart and know how to cook. At this moment, a woman in a white dress came out of the hidden scripture tower and asked, what did seventh brother make this time? Wang Daoyuan saw her and said with a smile, I created a new food called dumplings. Eighth sister, you're just in time. Come and try it. This woman was called Wang Daoshu. She was ranked 8th and was still underage. However, the clan was short of manpower, so she was also sent to the Drunken Immortal restaurant to learn cooking. Seventh brother's food has always been delicious. I have to eat more. Wang Daoshu smiled. She tasted a dumpling and said, this taste is really good. I can sell it at the Drunken Immortal restaurant. Seventh brother, teach me how to make dumplings. If I sell dumplings at the Drunken Immortal restaurant, my business will definitely be good. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, it's not difficult. Grind spirit grains into powder, add water and mix it into dough, then roll it into pieces. This is how to make the dumpling skin. Use the meat of spirit beasts or spirit fish, add some vegetables and seasonings, and mince it into minced meat. This is how to make the dumpling filling. Finally, use the dumpling skin to wrap the filling and pinch the sides to make the dumplings. There are many ways to make the dumpling filling, and it's also possible to use vegetables. As for how to eat it, you can steam it, boil it, fry it, or fry it. Eighth sister, you're so smart. It's easy for you to learn such a simple thing. Wang Daoshu immediately smiled when she heard her seventh brother praising her intelligence. Seventh brother, you really know how to talk. These dumplings are also very delicious. Can I eat more? Eat as much as you want. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, I prepared more than 10 kilograms of dumplings this time. I'm sure great-grandfather and my brothers and sisters can eat until they're full. Wang Daoyin was happy when she heard that she could eat until she was full. She picked up a big bowl and said, Second brother, I haven't eaten until now. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, who told you to eat so much? Even if I set aside an acre of spirit land to feed you, you can't eat until you're full every meal. Remember, when you enter the family, you have to call me seventh brother according to the ranking in the family. All the brothers and sisters also took a bowl of rice. Wang Daoyuan also filled a bowl for great-grandfather Wang Jiza. Then, Wang Daoyuan took out a storage bag and handed it to Wang Daoyin. He said, this is 500 kilograms of spirit grains. Eat slowly. I still have the ability to let you eat until you're full. You're more talented than me. Cultivate well at great-grandfather's place. Don't waste such good talent. He said goodbye to great-grandfather and his brother and returned to his cave residence to prepare for leaving the mountain. After the patriarch and the elders finished their discussion, he should leave Jade Spring Peak and contact the people of Green Willow Province. Chapter 82. 3 days later, the 12th uncle, Wang Shui, came to his cave residence. Wang Daoyuan opened the door to the cave residence and welcomed the 12th uncle in. He asked, 12th uncle, you came in such a hurry. Is there something urgent? Wang Shui did not treat Wang Daoyuan as an outsider. He picked up a jar of wine from the cave residence and drank. He said, I came to find you for 2 matters. One is that the secret cave residence and the matters at Green Willow Province are finished. The clan leader asked me to call you over. There are some matters that require your participation. The second matter is about the dumplings. That girl Dao Shu came to find me and asked me to plant a few mu of spirit wheat to make dumplings. Let me ask you, compared to planting spirit grains, is planting spirit wheat worth it? I will go to the clan leader in a moment. Wang Daoyuan answered. As for spirit wheat, the yield per mu is higher than spirit grains. It is just more troublesome to plant. But if spirit wheat is ground into powder, it can be made into many kinds of delicacies. After the market is opened, it should be more worth it than planting spirit grains. Since it is worth it, then I am at ease. After this season's harvest of spirit grains, we will free up a few mu of land to plant spirit wheat. Wang Shui said with satisfaction, Dao Yuan, if you have nothing else, let us go see the clan leader. He is still waiting. Also, don't spread the dumplings recipe. The clan is still relying on this to earn spirit stones. Wang Daoyuan had nothing else to do and followed Wang Shui to the meeting hall. Wang Jian saw the two arrive and went straight to the point. Shui, Daoyuan, come with me to the cave residence at the foot of Mirror Iron Mountain. We will also discuss with the people of Green Willow Province. The two agreed. The three did not take the water route. They disguised themselves and took the land route, heading towards Mirror Iron Mountain in the southeast direction. After the decline of the Wang clan, the Liang clan had taken over a large piece of the traditional territory north of Clear Stream and east of Clear Glass River. It was a prime area near Clear Glass Market. Clear Glass River and Clear Stream, these two golden water routes, were controlled by the Liang clan. The three were going to see the secret cave residence of the clan. If they took the water route, they would be discovered by the Liang clan. And this time, the patriarch had gone there personally. It couldn't be a small matter. If they were discovered by the Liang clan, they would definitely send out Foundation establishment cultivators to follow and monitor them. Then, the Wang clan's secret Immortals cave would no longer be a secret. If the Liang clan found out and reported to the underworld sect, the Wang clan would be done for. The three of them disguised themselves as rogue cultivators. Sometimes they would split up, sometimes they would gather together, and many times they would use the water escape technique to hide their tracks. In the end, the three of them met at a small lake about 200 li north of Mirror Iron Mountain. Wang Shi asked, Daoyuan, what should we do next? Wang Daoyuan replied, there's an underground river next to the cave. The upper reaches should be in this area. I used the earth escape technique to burrow into the ground, found the underground river, and followed it. The three of them searched the nearby underground. Perhaps it was because the three of them cultivated water attribute cultivation techniques, they were sensitive to water spiritual energy. Soon, they found the location of the underground river. After entering the underground river, it would be difficult for even a golden core cultivator to detect the depth of several hundred feet. The three of them naturally did not need to conceal their presence. They advanced at full speed in the underground river. Wang Daoyuan's cultivation base was much lower than the two of them. He could only use the spirit travel talisman and follow closely behind. In less than a quarter of an hour, the three of them arrived at the entrance of the underground cave. Wang Jian pointed to the stone wall and asked, Daoyuan, this is the entrance of the cave. Wang Daoyuan nodded and said, it's here. You need to use the bead that controls the formation to open it. This person really is a formation genius. He can actually hide a cave with a second-level low-grade spirit spring without leaking any presence. If not for Daoyuan leading the way, I would not have been able to find the cave. Wang Jian said emotionally. Wang Daoyuan took out the bead that controls the formation. Under the activation of spirit energy, a hole appeared in the stone wall. The three of them entered the cave. Wang Jian and Wang Shui walked directly to the spirit spring. Wang Jian closed his eyes and sensed for a while, saying, it is indeed a second-level low-grade spirit spring. Moreover, this spirit spring has not been formed for long, only 1,000 years. There is still a lot of room for growth. Just this spirit spring alone is enough to become the foundation of a foundation establishment clan. Finished speaking, he went to look at the spirit field, the pond, and the jade butterfly orchid by the water's edge. He swept his gaze over the entire Immortals cave and said, "Sure enough, Daoyuan's words were true. This Immortals cave is enough to accommodate an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator and over 30 qi condensation cultivators." At this time, Wang Daoyuan took out 2 jade slips and said, "This is the evil cultivator's cultivation method, as well as his understanding of formations. This understanding of formations can be said to be the inheritance of a second-level high-grade formation master. That evil cultivator also has an enemy at the peak of foundation establishment. Moreover, that enemy's strength is comparable to an early Zifu stage cultivator. If this were to leak out, our Wang clan would probably be annihilated. Therefore, I did not dare to hand these 2 jade slips over to the Hidden Scriptures Tower. Here, the news will not leak out." Wang Daoyuan had already made a copy of the jade slip that recorded his understanding of formations. As for the gold fury art, he had no use for it, so he did not make a copy. Wang Jian took the jade slip and scanned it with his spiritual sense, saying, "Daoyuan is indeed meticulous. You have thought of everything so thoroughly. Thus, I am also relieved. Since this cave was discovered by you, and the magic tool controlling the formation has already recognized you as its master, this cave will be handed over to you to manage." All the elders have also agreed. According to the clan's rules, if a clan member discovers an ore vein or spirit vein outside of the clan's territory, 30% will go to the discoverer. If it is outside of the clan's territory, 50% will go to the discoverer. This cave is within the clan's territory. In the future, 30% of the cave's harvest will go to you. In addition, only the clan leader can know the exact location of this cave. You are not allowed to tell anyone else. Hearing the clan leader's arrangement, Wang Daoyuan hurriedly declined, "Clan leader, this cave is the clan's backup shelter. If the situation is unfavorable in the future, this cave will be the clan's place to settle down. It is not something an ore vein or spirit vein can compare to. How can I take a share here?" Wang Jian smiled and said, "All the elders are well aware that you are wholeheartedly doing this for the clan. However, there are not only 1 or 2 people in the clan. If there is something good, you can use it or I can use it. There are dozens of cultivators in the clan and more than 100,000 ordinary people. If so many people are not properly managed, there will definitely be chaos. Since there are rules, everyone should abide by them. You don't want to share because it is for the clan's good, but it is also breaking the clan's rules. If you don't take a share today, there may be clansmen who discover an ore vein or spirit vein tomorrow and feel that there is no profit in giving it to the clan. They may hide it for their own benefit or even sell the information to outsiders. At that time, the clan will be the one to suffer losses. You are worried that the situation will change in the future and the clan will need to rely on this cave to survive. Who knows when that will happen? If that day really comes, then we can talk about changing the share." The clan leader's words were reasonable and well-founded. Wang Daoyuan also couldn't refute it. He didn't want the income from this cave mainly because he really didn't care about it. There was no need to fight with the clan. However, since the clan had rules, then he would do his best to help the clan within the clan's rules. Chapter 83. Giving benefits to the clan but breaking the rules would cause the clan's people to be unstable, which could cause more harm than good to the clan. In addition to Wang Shui's persuasion, Wang Daoyuan bowed and said, "Grandson understands. Then this share will be transferred to Dao Yin. This kid's appetite is too big. The amount of spirit grains allocated by the clan is not enough for him to eat. I promised my parents to take good care of him. I can't let him starve." Wang Jian did not refuse this time. "Since you want to transfer it, then there's no problem. The share is yours. How you deal with it is your right." The value of the 2 jade slips you handed over is very high. Later, I'll reward you with 2,000 clan contribution points. Oh right, does this cave and spirit spring have a name? I'm dealing with an evil cultivator. I'm not in the mood to ask him these questions. This cave doesn't have a signboard or anything like that. Just pretend it doesn't have a name. Since the clan head is here, then please name it. Wang Daoyuan replied. Wang Jian smiled, then I'll be impolite. The most valuable thing in this cave is this spirit spring. Let's call it the Spirit Spring Cave. As for the name of this spirit spring, since the spirit spring gave birth to the unique spirit plant Jade Butterfly Orchid, then let's call it the Jade Butterfly Spring. Wang Daoyuan naturally had no objection. Wang Jian continued, this cave will be left to you to manage. Don't let anyone know that you're guarding the cave. Just right, this place is rich in water spirit energy. You also cultivate a water attribute cultivation method. It's not bad to cultivate here. Let's leave the matter of the Spirit Spring Cave like this. You go and pass a message to the rogue cultivator from the Green Willow province. I want to see his master. The meeting place will be at the north bank of the clear stream, the border between the Sky Beheading Mountain Range and our Wang clan's territory. The time will be set by them, but it's best to arrange it within 2 months. Before the meeting, Shui and I will wait in this cave. Wang Daoyuan gave the spirit pearl that controlled the formation to the clan head and said, since the cave is called the Spirit Spring Cave, then this spirit pearl should also be called the Spirit Spring Pearl. Although this Spirit Spring Pearl doesn't recognize its master and can't control the formation, it can control the opening and closing of the door. Take it first, then I'll go and contact Qinliang. Wang Jian took the Spirit Spring Pearl, nodded and said, go. Wang Daoyuan left the Spirit Spring Cavern abode. In order to deceive others, he changed into a disguise and changed his appearance. He used the breath-concealing technique to hide his cultivation level to the 2nd level of Qi Disciple before heading to the Mirror Iron Mountain. After meeting his 8th uncle, Wang Daoyuan, Wang Shoujiang, he asked him to help find Qinliang. Qinliang arrived at Wang Daoyuan's cave residence. Wang Daoyuan said to Wang Shoujiang, 8th uncle, this matter is top secret. The clan leader has ordered that no one who is not involved in this matter is to be revealed. 8th uncle, please leave. Although Wang Shoujiang did things hastily, he was still able to see the big picture. After hearing Wang Daoyuan's words, he wasn't the slightest bit dissatisfied. Instead, he didn't say anything further and directly left the abode. Wang Daoyuan said to Qinliang, I have already reported your master's intention to do business with my Wang family to the clan head. The clan head's intention is that this matter is of great importance, and it is inevitable that the news will be leaked through word transmission. The clan head will discuss with your master whether or not to cooperate, and how to cooperate. The location of the meeting will be on the north bank of the clear stream, at the border between the Sky Beheading Mountain Range and my Wang family's territory. The specific time can be arranged by your master, but it would be best if it is within 2 months. I wonder if you have any objections? After hearing Wang Daoyuan's words, Qinliang knew that his mission was completed. He was very happy and hurriedly said, I am just a servant, how would I dare to have any objections? I will return to the oasis and report to my master the clan head's intentions. After my master has made his decision, he will definitely send someone to inform me. Wang Daoyuan added, I will say the ugly words first. If there is no news within 2 months, then this matter will be dropped. In addition, if the news is leaked, my Wang family will definitely not admit that we are cooperating with the oasis. Also, if I find out that you are playing tricks at the meeting location, I will not attend. At that time, don't say that my Wang family is not keeping its promises. Qinliang was silent for a while, then said, Daoyu's words, I will definitely report it to my master without changing a word. As for my master's decision, that is not something I can guess. If you don't have anything else to say, I will take my leave. Wang Daoyuan smiled, I won't see you out. After sending Qinliang off, he did not return to the spiritual spring cavern, but stayed at Mirror Iron Mountain to cultivate. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Chen Liang once again came to Mirror Iron Mountain. Wang Daoyuan saw Chen Liang and asked, "How did your master decide?" Chen Liang clasped his hands. "My master ordered me to tell the clan head that he has accepted the Wang family's invitation and conditions. In 20 days, he will meet at the place chosen by the clan head. This is not only my master's intention, but also the intention of all the foundation establishment cultivators of the oasis." Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was a little surprised. He had always thought that Chen Liang's master only wanted to do business with the Wang family and strengthen his own strength. He did not expect that this was the intention of all the upper echelons of the oasis. It seemed that the oasis was truly lacking in resources. The Wang family's partner was not just Chen Liang's master, but the entire oasis. The Wang family's business with the oasis was much better. They did not need to worry about the internal conflicts of the oasis and other foundation establishment cultivators interfering. He understood Chen Liang's meaning. "I will report this to the clan head. I ask that Dao Yu stay at Mirror Iron Mountain for a few days. If the clan head has any requests, he can let Dao Yu pass on the message." Wang Daoyuan left Mirror Iron Mountain and circled around before using the Earth Escape Talisman to return to the Spiritual Spring Cavern. When the restriction of the Spiritual Spring Cavern was closed, he did not need the Spiritual Spring Pearl to pass through the stone wall. If the restriction was opened, anyone who dared to use the Earth Escape technique to enter the Spiritual Spring Cavern would be attacked. After returning to the Spiritual Spring Cavern, he reported Chen Liang's message and his own judgment to the clan head. The clan head did not have any new instructions. He also volunteered to scout the location of the meeting to prevent an ambush. Although there was no conflict of interest between the oasis and the Wang family, and the probability of killing the clan head was not high, it was not completely impossible. For example, someone could pay a large enough price to ask the people of the oasis to set up a trap. Although the clan head was not the only foundation establishment cultivator of the Wang family, he was the true pillar of the Wang family. If the clan head was killed, even if the Wang family did not collapse, it would suffer a heavy blow. To prevent this from happening, after Wang Daoyuan reported the news to Chen Liang and saw him off, he immediately headed for the meeting location. Mirror Iron Mountain was only a few hundred li away from the periphery of the Heaven/Mountain range. He did not dare to travel openly, so he could only travel stealthily. It took him more than a day to reach the vicinity of the meeting location. He had lived on the Jade Spring Peak since he was young, so he had seen the world in terms of spirit veins. However, when he reached the periphery of the Heaven/Mountain range, he was shocked. Looking into the Heaven/Mountain range, he saw a group of towering mountains shrouded in mist. Within the mist, he could faintly hear the roars of tigers, the cries of apes, the cries of phoenixes and cranes. On the nearby mountain peak, there were strange pines and strange rocks everywhere, with clear streams flowing to the left and right. Rare and exotic beasts were faintly discernible, and exotic flowers and herbs were everywhere. It was a scene of immortals. Even if there were no spirit veins here, the concentration of spirit chi was close to the Spiritual Spring Cavern. Chapter 84. Heavenly/Mountain Range is worthy of being Beiyuan Xiuxian's main spirit vein. Even the border several thousand miles away from the main vein has such high spirit energy density. What kind of scenery would the main vein be like? Wang Daoyuan exclaimed. He advanced along the border and used his divine sense to investigate the Heavenly/Mountain Range. But after advancing 40 to 50 miles, he discovered 5 to 6 Tier 1 spirit veins. Among them, there were even 2 that had just formed the embryonic form of spirit veins. The spirit energy at the location of these spirit veins was extremely dense. It was not impossible for them to grow into Tier 2 spirit veins in the future. Of course, regarding the main vein, Wang Daoyuan was only thinking about it. Even if he had 100 guts, he would not dare to enter the Heavenly/Mountain Range's main vein. Legend had it that there were countless high-level demonic beasts there. Golden core cultivators might not be able to come out after entering, let alone he was just a chi refinement cultivator. It was impossible to enter the main vein, but searching around the periphery was still pretty good. He released over 50 soul-chasing bees and gave them orders through the Bee King to search for spiritual items in the nearby 100 miles. After an hour, according to the soul-chasing bees' flying speed, they could make a few round trips within the 100 miles. However, out of the 50 or so soul-chasing bees that were released, only 10 or so returned. Looks like this heavenly/mountain range's periphery is also full of danger. Although the soul-chasing bees were only low-grade tier 1 and were not strong, their flying speed was extremely fast. To be able to keep the soul-chasing bees, either they had special abilities or their cultivation was not low. If he personally went to investigate, it would absolutely be a dead end. Wang Daoyuan originally thought that as long as he released the bee swarm in the periphery of the heavenly/mountain range, he would be like a radar that detected spirit plants and spirit beasts. All the spiritual items within a radius of 1,000 miles would be under his control. Looking at it now, he still thought too simply of the heavenly/mountain range. This was just near the periphery, and the soul-chasing bees' losses exceeded 80%. If they were to enter a few hundred miles deep into the heavenly/mountain range, probably none of the soul-chasing bees would be able to come out alive. There might even be high-level demonic beasts following the soul-chasing bees and killing him. Wang Daoyuan understood the situation from these dozen over surviving soul-chasing bees through the Bee King and determined the danger of various places. Although the soul-chasing bee had already become a spiritual insect, its intelligence was still not enough. It could only briefly describe what it saw. One of the bees described, there was a pile of purple spiritual herbs with abundant spiritual energy. Beside them was a demonic beast with long ears. The demonic beast's body was about the same size as its beehive. According to the description of this long-tailed wasp, that cluster of purple spirit herbs was most likely a second-tier spirit herb. It had long ears and its body was about the size of a beehive. It was most likely a rabbit demonic beast. The rabbit-type demonic beasts were very timid. When they encountered an enemy, they would quickly run away. If they were not chased into a corner, they would not attack. In the past, Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to raise herbivorous spirit beasts. He only dared to raise spirit fish, mainly because he was afraid that they would harm the spirit plants in the space. Now that he had a clone to take care of the spirit orb, he no longer had to worry about this. He could catch a few rabbit demonic beasts and raise them in the space. He could also make full use of the spiritual rice straws in the space. In addition, rabbits reproduce quickly. In the future, Wang Daoyuan would not lack meat. After he raised a group of rabbits, he could give a few to the family. It would also be an additional ingredient for the drunken immortal restaurant. He ordered the soul-chasing bee to lead the way in front while he used the breath-concealing technique to follow behind. After all, they were in the periphery of the sky-beheading mountain range. Any demonic beast that jumped out could easily tear him apart. The soul-chasing bee could safely pass through the place, but it didn't mean that he could also pass through it safely. The soul-chasing bee's cultivation was low, its body was small, and it could fly quickly. Most demonic beasts were not interested in it. However, Wang Daoyuan was different. To demonic beasts, his spiritual energy was higher. He could eat a lot and he couldn't fly. He was an excellent food. Therefore, every time he came to a place with lush vegetation, he would use his divine sense to scan the surroundings to prevent poisonous snakes and insects hidden in the vegetation from attacking him when he passed by. Caution was the parent of safety. Relying on caution, Wang Daoyuan followed the soul-chasing bee for more than 20 kilometers and avoided the ambush of 3 waves of poisonous snakes and insects. Because he used the breath-concealing technique, as long as he didn't get too close to the demonic beasts, he wouldn't be discovered. In addition, his route was always near the periphery of the sky-beheading mountain range. There were very few rank 2 demonic beasts, and he deliberately avoided the demonic beasts' nests. Along the way, he was scared but not in danger. Soon, Wang Daoyuan arrived at the area where the soul-chasing bee found the purple spirit herb. He scanned the surroundings and quickly found the place where the purple spirit herb was located. There was a gray rabbit with ears half the length of its body squatting by the grass. It was leisurely eating the grass. He didn't dare to release his divine sense to observe for fear of disturbing the rabbit. At this moment, Wang Daoyuan was only about 10 feet away from the purple spiritual grass. Immortal cultivators all had good eyesight. At this distance, he could clearly see the spiritual grass and the rabbit. To Wang Daoyuan, the spirit herb and the rabbit were not unfamiliar. The rabbit was a rank 1 low-grade long-eared rabbit. It didn't have much combat power, but its hearing was sharp and it ran fast. This rabbit was easy to raise. As long as it was a spirit herb, it wouldn't let it go. Its reproduction speed was also very shocking. A pair of rabbits could reproduce 4 times a year, giving birth to more than 10 little rabbits each time. If he could catch a pair of rabbits, he could eat long-eared rabbits as food in the future. Wang Daoyuan was too familiar with the spirit herb that the long-eared rabbit was eating. As a spirit talisman master, how could he not recognize the materials used to make talisman paper? This purple spirit herb was a rank 2 low-grade spirit herb, purple gold grass. A 10-year-old purple gold grass could be used to make a rank 2 low-grade talisman paper. A 50-year-old purple gold grass could be used to make a rank 2 mid-grade talisman paper. A 100-year-old purple gold grass could be used to make a rank 2 high-grade talisman paper. Although the Wang family also had a few rank 2 spirit herbs, they didn't plant the purple gold grass. The main reason was that there were no living stalks or seeds of the purple gold grass. The talisman paper used by 9th great-uncle to make a rank 2 low-grade spirit talisman was also purchased. Now that they found the purple gold grass, it could be said that it added another source of income to the Wang family. At least in the future, the cost of making rank 2 spirit talismans could be reduced by a lot. They could also sell rank 2 talisman paper. The purple gold grass grew there and wouldn't run away. For the time being, there was no need to worry about it. It was more important to think of a way to capture the long-eared rabbit. Wang Daoyuan thought of a way to capture the long-eared rabbit. This thing had a keen sense of hearing. If he approached, it would be difficult to guarantee that he wouldn't be discovered. Once the long-eared rabbit was frightened and ran away, he wouldn't dare to carelessly chase after it in this dangerous place. It was possible that he would be brought to a rank 2 demonic beast's nest and die without even knowing how he died. Wang Daoyuan only had 2 methods to subdue the long-eared rabbit. The first was the soul-extinguishing bell. With 1 bell ring, even if the long-eared rabbit didn't die, it wouldn't have much breath left. The second was to use the illusion cloud talisman to make the long-eared rabbit fall into an illusion. He would then take the opportunity to capture the long-eared rabbit. The soul-extinguishing bell definitely couldn't be used. If he used an indiscriminate sound wave attack here, it would anger the surrounding demonic beasts. It was very likely that he would be surrounded by demonic beasts. He was more than 30 meters away from the long-eared rabbit. The slightest movement would scare the long-eared rabbit away. If he directly threw the talisman at it, by the time the talisman reached it, the long-eared rabbit would have run 2 miles away. If he relied on the cloud mist escape to quickly approach it and then threw out the talisman, there was a bit of hope. However, it was only a bit of hope. Although the spiritual energy here was dense, it wasn't pure water spiritual energy. Wang Daoyuan's current cloud mist escape could only allow him to escape 20 meters away. He couldn't directly reach the long-eared rabbit. He still had to throw the illusion cloud talisman several meters away. He wasn't willing to give up just like that. If there was hope, he had to try. Even if he failed, he would only lose an illusion cloud talisman and a few spirit stones. Chapter 85. Wang Daoyuan's divine sense entered the space of the spirit pearl and controlled an illusion cloud talisman. He then used the cloud escape, and a cloud of mist with a diameter of more than 7 feet appeared in front of him. He immediately ran forward and used the illusion cloud talisman in the space of the spirit pearl. He instantly appeared only 10 feet away from the long-eared rabbit. At the same time, a cloud of mist flew out from between his eyebrows and enveloped the long-eared rabbit. He instantly escaped more than 7 feet away. The sound of wind breaking had already been heard by the long-eared rabbit. When he used the illusion cloud talisman, the long-eared rabbit had already started to escape. Now, it was a competition of speed. Let's see if the illusion cloud talisman's enveloping speed was faster or if the long-eared rabbit was faster. Victory or defeat would only be decided in an instant. In less than half a breath's time, the cloud of mist created by the illusion cloud talisman enveloped the long-eared rabbit. The illusion cloud talisman caused the enemy to fall into an illusion. It must cover the enemy's head. If the long-eared rabbit's head wasn't covered, it wouldn't fall into the illusion. The frightened long-eared rabbit stomped on the ground with its 2 hind legs and leaped several feet away in an instant, leaving behind a cloud of mist on the ground. Wang Daoyuan sighed and said, as expected of the long-eared rabbit, "So clever. I didn't want to waste time, but you forced me to destroy its nest." He immediately released 100 soul-chasing bees from the space and ordered them to chase after the long-eared rabbit through the bee king. The 100 soul-chasing bees quickly flew in the direction of the long-eared rabbit. Although the long-eared rabbit ran fast, it was still a demonic beast of the first tier. Wang Daoyuan could catch up with it using the spirit travel talisman, but running around in the sky beheading mountain range was too dangerous. Although he overcame his fear of death and no longer ran when facing enemies, he didn't want to die. However, being unafraid of death did not mean that he was courting death. Risking his life to chase after a rabbit was not worth it. But it was different with the soul-chasing bees. Their speed was comparable to a first-layer foundation establishment cultivator's flying sword. Chasing after the rabbit was too easy. Moreover, they could help to scout the way. If there was danger ahead, the soul-chasing bees would die first. When the soul-chasing bees returned, he would follow them to the rabbit's nest. The danger would be much lower. With the queen bee around, as long as there were enough resources, she could lay hundreds of eggs a day. In 1 or 2 years, the little soul-chasing bees hatched from the eggs could reach adulthood. Coupled with the fact that the time flow in the space was 20 times faster, it would only take a little more than a month to nurture a batch of them. The death of a few workers was nothing. As the saying goes, rabbits don't eat the grass near their burrows. The long-eared rabbit's nest should be quite far away from here, so the soul-chasing bees wouldn't be able to come back for a while. First, he put the purple gold grass into the space. It was a second-rank spirit herb, and it was also the raw material for making second-rank talismans. Its value was much higher than the long-eared rabbit's. This clump of purple gold grass had 50 to 60 stalks. Wang Daoyuan did not dig up all of the purple gold grass, he only took half of them. He dug out 20 to 30 stalks of purple gold grass along with the soil. This way, he would not harm the roots of the purple gold grass and would not affect its growth at all. After throwing the purple gold grass into the spiritual pearl space, he didn't need to worry about anything else. It was good to have a doppelganger. If there was something to do, the doppelganger would do it. While waiting for the soul-chasing bees, he didn't stay idle. He used his divine sense to scan the surroundings to see if there were any spirit herbs that were worth nurturing. Within the range of the sky/mountain range, there were almost no ordinary plants. The lowest level plants contained spirit chi but were not ranked. Most of these unranked plants did not have much value. After all, these plants did not contain as much spirit chi as spirit grains, so they could not be grown on a large scale. However, a few unranked plants still had special uses. For example, Wang Daoyuan encountered a very valuable spirit herb, chili. Ordinary itinerant cultivators would not even look at this thing. It had little spirit chi, and its production was not high. It could not be used to refine pills or fill one's stomach. What was the use of it? For Wang Daoyuan, it was very valuable. He could arrange for hot pot. Although this chili was only an unranked spirit herb, at least it was not harmful to cultivators. It could be used to make spirit food. Also, he could arrange for the long-eared rabbit and the spicy rabbit head that he was about to obtain. He still lacked Sichuan pepper. Qingxi village had Sichuan pepper trees. Although it was very difficult to nurture ordinary plants to a rank, this was a qualitative change, and the difficulty was higher than upgrading spirit herbs. However, ordinary plants only needed to be planted in places with abundant spirit qi and propagated for a few generations to become unranked spirit herbs. This was only a quantitative change, and the difficulty was not high. Although unranked spirit herbs did not have much effect on cultivators, at least they were not like ordinary food, which would increase the impurities in the body. It would not take long for ordinary Sichuan pepper trees to become unranked spirit herbs if they were planted in the stage 2 spirit fields in the space of the spirit pearl. This also inspired Wang Daoyuan. In the past, he only thought about looking for spiritual plants. He didn't think about looking for some valuable ordinary plants. He planted them in the second-order spiritual field in the space and let them evolve into spiritual plants that weren't ranked. In this way, there was no lack of various spirit herbs that could be used as seasonings. He would be able to gather them by going around the various areas where ordinary people lived in the Wang family's territory. At this moment, Wang Daoyuan's heart was filled with a sense of mission. Perhaps the heavens let him reincarnate into this world so that he could promote Chinese food culture. If he had the opportunity to catch a spirit chef with evil intentions, he would use the doppelganger soul nurturing technique to refine a doppelganger and throw it into the space of the spirit pearl to slowly study the dishes. In the future, the Wang family might shine because of the path of spirit chefs. Just as Wang Daoyuan was looking forward to the future, the soul-chasing bees that went to track the long-eared rabbit returned. It seemed that the long-eared rabbit's ability to seek luck and avoid disaster was not bad. Only a few of the soul-chasing bees were lost, indicating that this route was very safe. He put the pepper into the space of the spirit pearl and followed the soul-chasing bees to the long-eared rabbit's nest. Although the soul-chasing bees were scouting the way and it was very safe, Wang Daoyuan still used the breath-holding technique to reduce his breath to the minimum. There were no surprises or dangers along the way, and he smoothly reached the long-eared rabbit's hiding place. It had to be said that this long-eared rabbit was very good at hiding, choosing the root of a towering tree to burrow into. There was a tree hole at the root of this tree, and the hole was covered by gravel and vegetation, making it an excellent hiding place. Wang Daoyuan used the power of his divine sense to explore the hole, and found that there was a space of 2 feet inside the tree hole. There were 2 adult rabbits in the hole, and more than 10 small rabbits half the size of a palm. This tree hole also had 2 exits. The long-eared rabbit was indeed cunning. He summoned 200 soul-chasing bees from the space, and blocked the other 2 exits. Although the soul-chasing bees' individual combat strength was not strong, if 100 of them could not beat a rabbit of the same level, they were not worthy of being called soul-chasing bees. After the soul-chasing bees blocked the hole, Wang Daoyuan threw an illusion cloud talisman into the tree hole. The cloud of mist condensed by the illusion cloud talisman was even larger than the space inside the tree hole, and the 2 rabbits had nowhere to hide. Moreover, with a nest of small rabbits, the 2 large rabbits did not think of running away. The 2 large rabbits fell into the illusion, and had no power to resist. He urged his spiritual power to condense a water dragon, and easily caught the rabbits from the tree hole, and directly put them into the space of the spirit pearl, and handed them over to his clone to manage. Wang Daoyuan was in the mood to observe the surrounding situation. This place was not far from the border of the sky/mountain range, and as long as they did not run around randomly, it was not particularly dangerous. He carefully sized up the tree in front of him, and saw that this tree was more than 30 feet tall, and the trunk needed 3 people to wrap around it. This was not an ordinary tree, but a second-tier low-grade mulberry tree. Chapter 86. Wang Daoyuan felt a burst of excitement in his heart. It was a low-grade second-tier spiritual wood, and it was a mulberry tree. Its value was not something that the purple gold grass could compare to. Even if it was a mulberry tree that had no special uses, once it reached the second tier, its branches could be used to refine magic tools. Mulberry tree bark could be used to make mulberry paper, which was a high-quality talisman paper. Most second-tier and above talisman papers were made from the bark of spiritual wood. Mulberries were also very valuable spiritual fruits that could be used to brew wine and as raw materials for alchemy. Even the dried branches of mulberry trees, when burned into spiritual charcoal, were extremely valuable. The most important thing was that the mulberry tree's greatest value was that its leaves could be used to breed spiritual silkworms and other spiritual insects. The heavenly/mountain range was rich in spiritual energy, so it was common for ordinary plants to evolve into spiritual plants. There were also many low-grade spiritual plants that evolved. Mulberry trees all looked similar, and different species would have obvious differences. At this time, there were no mulberries on this mulberry tree, so he could not distinguish the specific species. In places where there were few people, there would be wild spiritual silkworms resting on old mulberry trees. This mulberry tree was at least 400 to 500 years old, so how could there be no spiritual insects on it? He released the power of his divine sense and scanned the treetop. There were indeed some spiritual insects on this mulberry tree, but unfortunately, they were all worthless things. There was not even a single silkworm. He was a little unwilling, so he commanded the 200 soul-chasing bees that had been released to go to the treetop and bring down a sample of all the insects. As warlike spiritual bees, the soul-chasing bees were familiar with these things. They quickly swept through the huge treetop and brought down dozens of insects. Unfortunately, they were all useless pests. Wang Daoyuan asked these soul-chasing bees if they had found anything strange. Several soul-chasing bees replied, "We found something white. We can only see it with our eyes, but we can't sense it." Although the soul-chasing bees' divine sense was weak, they still had the power of their divine sense. They could not sense it with their divine sense and could only see it with their eyes. This thing should have the function of avoiding the detection of divine sense. He personally climbed up the treetop to see what it was that could avoid the detection of divine sense. The treetop had already been swept by the soul-chasing bees, so there shouldn't be any danger. Even so, Wang Daoyuan still took out the jade pendant that old ancestor Yang had given him and hung it on his waist. In case of a sneak attack, he could activate the jade pendant to protect himself. Once the golden armor talisman and the earth armor talisman were activated, the spiritual energy fluctuation would be too great, and it would easily attract demonic beasts. Moreover, their defensive power was not as good as the jade pendant. What's more, the jade pendant didn't cost anything to use once. He didn't have too many talismans left, only less than 500. He still had to be thrifty. After the soul-chasing bees' sweep, there were no more living creatures on the treetop. Wang Daoyuan was naturally not attacked. After he climbed to the top of the tree, he did not release his divine sense. After all, this thing could avoid the power of divine sense, and divine sense could not scan anything. He could only rely on the few soul-chasing bees to lead the way. Soon, under the lead of the soul-chasing bees, Wang Daoyuan discovered what they were talking about. This thing was the size of an adult's thumb, long oval, and snow-white. Looking carefully, he could see traces of silk on the surface. It was obviously a silkworm cocoon. Wang Daoyuan also raised a few silkworms to play with in his previous life, so he could recognize this thing. Wang Daoyuan searched the treetop and found a total of more than 30 silkworm cocoons. He put them into the space of the spirit bead. He also let his avatar check the 10,000 spirit chart and learned the information of this spirit silkworm. This spirit silkworm was called Forbidden Spirit Silkworm. It was generally a rank 1 upper grade spirit insect. If it could eat rank 2 spirit plants as food, it had a high chance of evolving into a rank 2 lower grade spirit insect. The silk of the Forbidden Spirit Silkworm could avoid the detection of divine sense. With the Forbidden Spirit Silkworm's silk as raw material, it was refined into spirit armor. When worn, it could avoid the detection of divine sense. It was very popular with assassins. The price of forbidden spirit silkworm silk was not low. 1 jean of raw silk could be sold for 200 to 300 spirit stones. The next thing was to transplant the mulberry tree. Of course, it was not to transplant such a big tree. Even if he exhausted his divine sense, it was impossible to move such a big tree. Moreover, the tree was big and had deep roots. It was impossible for a foundation establishment cultivator to uproot such a big tree. Such a big tree that had grown for hundreds of years would definitely have its descendants beside it. He just needed to find a few saplings and transplant them into the space. However, mulberry trees could be propagated by cutting, so he could not let go of this big tree for nothing. After all, it was a rank 2 lower grade spirit wood. It would take a long time for its descendants to grow into rank 2 spirit wood. And if he picked some of the young branches of the big tree, it would grow into a rank 2 spirit wood even faster. He picked over 100 new branches and 10 or so old branches that were as thick as an arm. Wang Daoyuan wanted to cut down a few more old branches, but unfortunately, he did not have the strength. Although the old branches were not as strong as the trunk, they were still comparable to a middle-grade rank 1 magic tool. It was especially strenuous to use the profound yang sword to cut them. These old branches could already be used to forge a high-grade rank 1 magic tool. If he wanted to forge a low-grade rank 2 magic tool, he would need the trunk of this mulberry tree. According to his understanding of spirit wood, it was easy for new branches to take root and grow. However, due to the lack of spirit chi, it would take a long time to grow into a rank 2 spirit wood. Although it was not easy for the old branches to grow, they had abundant spirit chi. As long as they grew, they would quickly grow into a rank 2 spirit wood. After doing all this, Wang Daoyuan came down from the canopy and found a few mulberry tree saplings that were as tall as a person. He even dug out the soil around the roots and placed them into the space of the spirit pearl. Transplanting these mulberry tree saplings was to prevent this kind of mulberry tree from being special. If the branches could not survive, there would be saplings as backup. The clone and the main body were telepathically connected. There was no need for him to instruct it. It followed his instructions and cleared out 2 mu of spirit fields to plant mulberry trees and purple gold grass. There were 3 mu of yellow cloud grass planted in the space. In the past few years, there was a lot of stock. It would not be long before he could refine a low-grade rank 2 spirit talisman. His need for yellow cloud grass was not great. It would not be of much use to plant more. Out of the 3 mu of yellow cloud grass, 2 mu of spirit mulberry trees were planted, and the other half was planted with purple gold grass. He had caught rabbits, chopped branches, and transplanted saplings nearby. He had made a lot of noise and had to leave as soon as possible. In a place where demonic beasts ran rampant, rampaging was a big taboo. It was even more taboo not to run away after making a big noise. After tidying up everything, Wang Daoyuan returned to the place where he had first released the soul-chasing bee. According to the soul-chasing bee's report, there were several other places that had valuable spirit plants. Following the soul-chasing bee, Wang Daoyuan continued to search for spirit plants. Not long after, he found another spirit plant, the jasper watermelon. This jasper watermelon had a vine that was more than 3 meters long. There were 5 or 6 watermelons on it, and 3 of them were ripe. The ripe watermelons were the size of basketballs. They were round and green like jade. This was where the name of the jasper watermelon came from. The jasper watermelon was a middle-grade rank 1 spirit plant. It was full of spirit energy. If a chi refinement cultivator ate it, it could speed up their cultivation speed. The taste was also very good. Although the jasper watermelon was good, no power was willing to plant it. This thing was too destructive to the spirit fields. If a batch of jasper watermelon was planted in a rank 1 spirit field, it would be impossible to plant another spirit plant for 10 years. The spirit energy in the spirit field would be absorbed by the jasper watermelon. Wang Daoyuan was not worried. He had planted so many spirit plants in the space of the spirit bead, but he had never seen the spirit energy in the spirit field decrease. He could also plant some on the Jade Spring Peak. After all, most of the spirit fields on the Jade Spring Peak were not naturally formed. They were watered by the Jade Dragon Spring water. When the spirit energy in the spirit fields was sucked dry, he could water them with the Jade Dragon Spring water. No matter how much spirit energy the Jasper watermelon absorbed, it was just a middle-grade rank 1 spirit plant. Could it suck dry a high-grade rank 3 spirit vein? He dug out the watermelon vine, roots and soil, and planted it in the space of the spirit bead. There was only one stalk. Moreover, the Jasper watermelon was mainly eaten as a snack. It was not worth it to occupy an acre of spirit field. He squeezed it together with the golden thread spirit jujube and the fiery sun wood. Even if he planted more in the future, it was not impossible to plant watermelons in the forest. He could play with the three-dimensional agriculture of his previous life. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.